Chapter 194. Set off. Ever since Lu Yuanhua found out that Zhuowen was a member of the Arcane Guild, he had given up on finding trouble with Zhuowen. Instead, he had been staying in the city lord's mansion, silently preparing to unseal the primordial cavern a month later. As the rumors of the ancient cave mansion spread, Tengjia city became more and more lively. Many factions knew that the ancient cave mansion would open in a month's time, so they were all rubbing their hands as they waited for the opening of the ancient cave mansion. The ancient cave abode was a temptation to anyone. After all, everyone knew that in the ancient era, the martial Dao was much more prosperous than it was now. There were countless experts, and experts who could open up cave dwellings were all big shots. Therefore, the cave dwellings of such experts would naturally contain countless treasures. For these factions, as long as they could obtain a little benefit from it, it would be extremely precious to them. Compared to the bustling outside, Zhuowen's life had indeed become exceptionally quiet. For the past month, Zhuowen had been going to the trading center almost every day to learn the method of refining crystals from Master Kuraki. With Zhuowen's current level 2 mental strength, it was naturally not difficult for him to refine crystals. After all, the trick to refining crystals was to precisely control one's mental strength, then mix dozens of medicinal herbs and use a fierce fire to refine the medicinal liquid. Finally, use one's mental strength to melt the refined medicinal liquid into the origin nucleus. The elemental beast's elemental core was the main material of the elemental crystal, while the herbs were supplementary materials. As long as one followed the method in the secret recipe given by Master Kuraki, the possibility of failure was very small. In just 5 days, Zhuowen was able to rely on his own ability to refine grade 1 origin crystals, such as blood chi crystals, wood spiritual crystals and other basic grade 1 auxiliary origin crystals. This speed really surprised Grandmaster Kuraki. Thus, his teaching of Zhuowen became even more meticulous, almost to the point of teaching by word and example. In the past month, apart from learning how to make crystals from Grandmaster Kuraki, Zhuowen had also been practicing the 10,000 evolution scripture. With his first experience of dividing his mental strength, the following practice was not too difficult for Zhuowen. His mental strength had also been divided into 8 parts. However, the deeper Zhuowen cultivated, the more he felt that the 10,000 amplification scripture was not ordinary. As his mental strength continued to divide, Zhuowen felt that the mental strength in his Naiwen Palace was increasing at a terrifying speed. Originally, Zhuowen's spiritual strength had just reached the complete level 2 not long ago. Now, after a month of continuous cultivation of the myriad evolution scripture, his spiritual strength actually had an opportunity to make a breakthrough. According to Zhuowen's estimation, in another month, his spiritual strength would very likely smoothly enter level 3. Of course, if he had some spiritual medicine that could increase his spiritual strength, Zhuowen could immediately break through to level 3. In addition to the improvement of his spiritual strength, Zhuowen's martial cultivation was also slowly increasing. Although the progress was not great, he still managed to advance another level in the past month, reaching Corporeal Yang Stage 8. At the same time, Zhuowen did not hide his intention to enter the ancient cave mansion from Grandmaster Kuraki and Zhuo Xiangding. Although the two of them were not at ease with Zhuowen entering the ancient cave mansion, they had no choice but to agree under Zhuowen's unyielding attitude. Compared to the hustle and bustle of the past few days, Rotten Armor City had become quite quiet in the past month. Obviously, this was only the calm before the storm. Time quietly flew by amidst this tranquility. After a month had passed, the quiet Vine Armor City once again bustled with activity when the morning light of the second day scattered across the land. Quite a number of factions had also become aware of the location of the ancient cave. All of them impatiently hurried towards the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye. On this day, Lu Yuanhua and the others, who had been staying in the city lord's mansion for the past month, led the men of the house of Marquis Qin towards the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye in the depths of the Annihilation Forest. Following the men of the house of Marquis Qin were the men of the Marquis of Baichuan's mansion led by Su Mu, as well as the men of Marquis Yongsheng who had arrived in Rotten Armor City in the past month. Marquis Yongsheng had sent a 25-year-old man with an indifferent expression. His strength was around the Earth King stage. It was said that he was the son of a general in Marquis Yongsheng's estate and could be considered a genius with some fame in the province. While all the forces were rushing towards the depths of the Annihilation Forest, in the front yard of the Zhuo family's residence, Zhuowen was also surrounded by the men of the Zhuo family. He was ready to set off. Zhuowen, be careful. Your life is the most important. Zhuo Xiangding patted Zhuowen's shoulder and said worriedly. Don't worry. Grandfather. Zhuowen smiled and greeted the other clan members one by one. Without the slightest hesitation, he once again waved to everyone and turned around to leave. Looking at Zhuowen's back, Zhuo Xiangding and the rest were worried, but there was still a proud smile on their faces. They knew that with Zhuowen's potential, if he continued to stay in the family and cultivate, it would become a kind of restraint. Only by going through hardships could Zhuowen become a true expert. The ancient cave mansion this time was obviously the best opportunity for him to hone his skills. Zhuowen was not unfamiliar with the Annihilation Forest, or rather, he was very familiar with it. After all, Zhuowen was chased by the Lu family and the Mercenary Alliance through the entire Annihilation Forest. In the end, he had no choice but to jump into the Heaven Fiend Netherworld Eye. Rattan Armor City was a day's journey from the Annihilation Forest. Therefore, when Zhuowen reached the edge of the Annihilation Forest, the sky had already darkened and he could vaguely see the bonfire in the distance. The bonfire was like a sky full of stars and one could not see the end of it. It was obvious that the number of people who had entered the Annihilation Forest had reached a terrifying level. It seems that the attraction of this ancient cave mansion is indeed very enticing. It actually attracted so many warriors. After muttering to himself, Zhuowen's expression became increasingly vigilant. He knew that the people who had entered the ancient cave mansion this time were basically groups formed by warriors from some factions. These groups had a large number of people and a small number of people had 3 to 4 people. Groups like these were very common along the way. However, there were almost no lone wolves like Zhuowen. Therefore, along the way, Zhuowen naturally attracted the strange gazes of many groups. Especially when they saw that Zhuowen was only a teenager, the strange gazes in their eyes became even more surprised. Of course, among these strange gazes, there was no lack of people with bad intentions. Zhuowen knew that a lone wolf like him was the easiest target. After all, there were many different factions entering the Annihilation Forest this time. Occasionally, there would be a few factions who wanted to enter the ancient cave mansion. However, if they could rob some weaker factions along the way, it would naturally be the icing on the cake. Zhuowen naturally had to be on guard against these black sheep mixed in with the numerous cultivators. After all, he appeared to be alone and weak right now, making him the easiest target for others. In order to avoid trouble, while Zhuowen was secretly on guard, he also tried his best to make his figure appear undetectable in the night. After passing through a thicket, Zhuowen came to a dirt road. Looking at the dirt road, Zhuowen's face revealed a relaxed expression. If his memory was correct, if he followed this dirt road, he would be able to reach the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye after passing through 2 thickets. Zhuowen knew that many factions must have gathered at the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye. Powerful factions like the 3 marquises of the province were probably already waiting there. Kid. You seem to have been targeted. Just as Zhuowen was about to take a step forward, Xiao Hei's gloating voice suddenly rang out in his mind. Are we being targeted? Zhuowen was stunned. Soon after, he heard the rustling of leaves behind him. Then, 6 figures slowly appeared in Zhuowen's line of sight. Yo! His luck was really quite good. He was actually able to meet a guy who was alone here. Kid, you look like you are only 15 or 16 years old. You actually dared to enter the Annihilation Forest. Don't tell me you are also here for the ancient cave mansion. The tall figure in the lead slowly walked in and stopped at a spot not far from Zhuowen. He stared at Zhuowen and chuckled. The moment this person spoke, the other 5 figures behind him immediately burst into laughter. Clearly, when they saw that Zhuowen was a young man, they knew that the kid in front of them, whom they saw as prey, would not be a threat to them. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. After staring at the 6 people for a while, an expression of not knowing whether to laugh or cry appeared on his face. This was because he realized that the 6 people in front of him, who saw him as prey, were pitifully weak. The tall figure in the lead was a middle-aged man with a scar on his face. He was the strongest among the 6, but his strength was only at the 7th stage of the corporeal yang stage. The other 5 people's strength was even worse. Most of them were at the initial stage of the corporeal yang stage. With Zhuowen's current strength, he only needed one move to defeat the 6 of them. Just as the 6 of them were about to say something ruthless, Zhuowen spoke first. "Are you guys here to rob?" The 6 people were stunned. They did not expect the young man in front of them to steal their lines. For a moment, the 6 of them stared at each other and did not say a word. In the end, it was still the scar-faced man who spoke first. He cleared his throat and struck a pose that he thought was arrogant. He said sternly, "At least you know what's good for you. Since you're frightened by my handsomeness, then quickly hand over your Qiankuan pouch." Looking at the scarred man's question, Zhuowen sneered. The 6 people in front of him were not a threat to him, so he did not plan to waste time on them. Chapter 195. To be rescued. Bang bang bang. The red silhouette flashed past, and 6 powerful energies burst out in the air, fiercely shooting towards the scar-faced man and the other 5 people. "Who is it?" The scarred man was the first to react. His face was gloomy as he growled. However, the only response he received was 6 sharp forces. Gently waving his right hand, the knife-scarred man took a step forward and retrieved a heavy sword from his Qiankuan bag. Holding it tightly with both hands, he suddenly waved it and accurately struck the force. Whoosh! Some sparks were emitted from between the heavy sword and the force. Immediately, the eyes of the knife-scarred man shrunk. Under the collision of the force, he let out a muffled groan and continuously retreated. Only after he rubbed against the ground and formed 2 scratch marks that were over 10 meters long did he finally come to a stop. His face revealed a shocked expression as he stared at the red-colored figure that had suddenly appeared. As the leader of the 6, the scarred man was undoubtedly the strongest. But even so, he was still at a disadvantage under the attack of this force, let alone his 5 subordinates. Ah! Not long later, 5 rather orderly miserable cries sounded out. The knife-scarred man saw his 5 subordinates spit out fresh blood under the attack of the force. Their bodies were like withered leaves as they suddenly flew backwards. Finally, they collided with a large tree not far away before coming to a stop. Whoosh! After the scarred man and the other 5 were simultaneously pushed back by the force, the red figure that had suddenly appeared gently landed and coincidentally stopped not far from Zhuowen's side. The one who appeared in front of Zhuowen was a young girl. She was about the same age as Zhuowen. She wore a red dress, and under her white jade neck, half of her fragrant shoulder was exposed. She was like a snowflake in the midst of a myriad of flowers, and her creamy skin was even more captivating. Although this woman's appearance was not as stunning as the 9th commandery princess, she naturally had an elegant and cold temperament, which was quite attractive. However, there was a trace of indifference and coldness on her delicate face, which made it difficult for others to approach her. However, what surprised Zhuowen was not the woman's appearance, but the strength that she displayed. She had reached the half-step Shao King realm. She was only 1 step away from the human king realm. This woman was about the same age as Zhuowen, but her plane was even stronger than Gu Xian, the #1 young cultivator in Rattan Armor City. This meant that this woman's talent was terrifying. Perhaps only the forces in the capital could cultivate such a young genius. The young lady's gaze was icy cold. After indifferently glancing at Zhuowen, who was not far away, she directly ignored the latter. Instead, she stared at the somewhat unnatural scarred man in front of her and coldly said, "This young lady hates people like you who bully the weak and fear the strong because of your numbers. People like you are simply not worthy of being a warrior." The knife-scarred man also felt the terrifying aura emitted by this young girl who had appeared out of nowhere. This aura had already far surpassed his, and he knew that if they were to really fight, he would most likely suffer a great loss. Quietly wiping the cold sweat from his forehead, he dryly laughed and said, "It's a misunderstanding. This is all a misunderstanding. Since this young lady is this little brother's friend, then I won't disturb you any longer. Farewell. You want to leave? It's not that easy." The young lady's eyebrows were filled with killing intent. Her slender jade-like legs stepped lightly, and her entire body was like a graceful butterfly. Suddenly, she flew straight towards the knife-scarred man. A pair of jade-like palms were condensed with dense yuan power. Seeing that the young lady was not going to let him go, a trace of anger appeared on the knife-scarred man's face. He knew that she was determined to make him stay, and now he could not leave even if he wanted to. "You forced me to do this." With an angry roar, the knife-scarred man suddenly took a step forward. His hands tightly gripped the heavy sword, and the surging yuan power in his body fiercely poured into the heavy sword. Immediately, the surface of the heavy sword emitted a blazing red color. At the same time, the surrounding temperature slowly rose because of this explosive flame sword technique. A low and deep roar slowly came out from the knife-scarred man's mouth. Soon after, the heavy sword in his hand was immediately surrounded by blazing flames. Moreover, waves of muffled explosions continuously sounded out from the heavy sword, as if countless bombs were hidden within the heavy sword. Bang bang bang. Slowly raising the heavy sword above his head, he suddenly swung it downwards. A sword shadow that was dozens of feet long suddenly slashed towards the young lady. Moreover, the surface of this sword shadow was condensed with the power of countless flames. At the same time, it was accompanied by a series of muffled explosions. On the young lady's elegant face, there was not the slightest trace of fear. She was still as cold as ice. With a wave of her jade-like hand, a small curved blade flew out from the delicate chinkuan bag on her waist. Catching the curved blade, the young man slightly slashed forward. Rip! Wherever the blade passed, a strange sound of cloth tearing sounded out. Following which, a blade aura that was dozens of feet long rose out of thin air and shot towards the sword shadow. Rumble! In the blink of an eye, the blade aura and the sword shadow collided. However, what caused the knife-scarred man to be shocked was that his sword shadow only lasted for a moment before it was brutally torn apart by the blade aura. The remaining power of the blade aura did not decrease in speed but instead increased as it shot towards the knife-scarred man. Hiss! As the blade aura flashed past, the knife-scarred man blankly stood on the spot. Soon after, his clothes were torn apart and a bloody mist shot out from his body. With a bang, he directly fell to the ground, no longer breathing. Looking at the young lady who had cleanly killed the knife-scarred man, Zhuowen's eyes could not help but tremble slightly. Looks like this young lady who had just appeared was not someone to be trifled with. She was actually able to kill without batting an eyelid. Evidently, this was not the first time she had done something like this. Moreover, what caused Zhuowen to be rather fearful was that the curved blade in the young lady's hand was definitely a soul treasure. Moreover, it was a middle-rank soul treasure. Otherwise, the blade aura that was gently slashed out would not be so powerful. "Thank you for saving me, young lady." Zhuowen somewhat helplessly glanced at the frosty young lady standing by the side and could only cup his hands in gratitude. Although these 6 people were nothing in Zhuowen's eyes and he could easily deal with them, since she had kindly helped him, Zhuowen naturally had to put on a grateful expression. Glancing at Zhuowen, the young lady slightly frowned and said, "Your strength has not even reached the corporeal yang realm. Barging into the Annihilation Forest is simply courting death. Now that the Annihilation Forest is filled with danger, with your current condition, only death awaits you if you enter. I advise you to leave as soon as possible." In order to conceal his whereabouts, Zhuowen's aura had been concealed by Xiao He. Therefore, on the surface, his aura was only that of the Yin Void realm, which naturally fell into the young lady's eyes. Zhuowen was startled, but the corners of his mouth curled into a bitter smile. Although the young lady's suggestion was very wise, if Zhuowen was really a Yin Void realm warrior, he would naturally be deeply grateful. However, Zhuowen was not. In his opinion, the young lady's help was equivalent to nothing. However, just as Zhuowen was about to speak, the surrounding trees rustled again, causing Zhuowen to be secretly vigilant. Just as he was about to speak, he swallowed back the words that he was about to say. Second sister. You were so powerful just now, you actually killed that annoying scar-faced man with one slash. A clear and delicate laughter suddenly sounded, and soon after, 4 figures walked out from the trees. The 4 figures were 2 men and 2 women. One of the 2 women was actually younger than Zhuowen, about 14 years old. The other woman was slightly older, about 19 years old. Her pretty face was quite mature. The one who spoke just now was the younger girl. Zhuowen looked over and found that the 2 women who suddenly appeared looked somewhat similar to the young lady in the red dress. Obviously, the 3 of them were related by blood. Shifting his gaze slightly, Zhuowen placed his attention on the other 2 men. The 2 men were an old man and a young man. In particular, the aura faintly emitted from the old man's body was quite vast and boundless like a vast ocean. Exceptional human king realm. Frowning slightly, Zhuowen could feel that the old man's aura was quite similar to Lu Sheng's. Obviously, he was also a warrior in the exceptional human king realm. The remaining young man was ordinary. He always had a faint smile on his face, and his cultivation was only around the 9th stage of the corporeal yang realm. He was somewhat ordinary in this team. Looking at the 4 people who suddenly appeared, the young lady in the red dress put the scimitar in her qiankuan bag and said apologetically to the old man, "Third uncle, I'm really sorry. Your journey was delayed because of me." A kind smile appeared on the old man's face. He waved his hand and said, "Second young lady, what are you saying? We also know that second young lady abhors evil as if it were her personal enemy. What you hate the most is scum who act recklessly just because they have more people. Moreover, we didn't waste too much time." Speaking of this, the old man turned to look at Zhuowen and said, "Little brother, this old man is a little curious. You are so young and your cultivation is so low. Why did you enter the Annihilation Forest alone? You should know that this place is very dangerous." Zhuowen scratched his head and smiled shyly. "Originally, I only came in to pick herbs. Unfortunately, I met a meta beast in this forest and was chased deep into the forest. Therefore, I didn't mean to enter this place. I don't know if you can let me join your team. After all, this place is very dangerous. In my current situation, it is difficult to escape death in this forest alone." Originally, Zhuowen planned to leave. However, when he thought of what had just happened, he knew that if he was still alone, he would probably be robbed today. The only way to avoid this kind of trouble now was to join a strong team. This team in front of him was exactly what Zhuowen wanted. "No. Brat, don't push your luck. My second sister just saved your life, and you want to join our team to seek protection. Dream on. With your current strength, which is even weaker than mine, you will only be a burden to us." Chapter 196. Puzzlement. Zhuowen frowned slightly as he stared at the unruly young lady whose face was filled with disdain and ridicule. However, he did not pay much attention to her. Instead, he turned his gaze towards the elder and said, "Elder, although I am not very powerful, I am quite familiar with some of the places in the Annihilation Forest. Looking at the direction that everyone is heading in, you should be heading towards the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye in the depths of the Annihilation Forest. Furthermore, everyone seems to be in a hurry to get there. I know of a shortcut. Within a day, we can pass through this forest and reach the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye." Zhuowen cupped his hands together and said in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. Oh. You actually know of a shortcut? The elder looked at Zhuowen in astonishment and said. I naturally do not dare to deceive elder. Zhuowen nodded and said. After deliberating for a moment, the elder nodded and said, Little brother, you are quite perceptive to be able to tell that we are in a hurry to reach the heaven fiend Dark Eye. If you really know of a shortcut, I can bring you along. The rest of the group did not have much of a reaction when they heard the elder's agreement. Only the youngest young lady objected once again and said with a sneer, Third uncle, with this fellow's weak strength, how could he possibly enter the depths of the Annihilation Forest? I think that the shortcut that he mentioned is very likely false. His goal is to let us protect him for free. The elder and the rest were stunned when they heard the young lady's words. Soon after, they looked at Zhuowen with unfriendly gazes. Clearly, the young lady's words were not without reason. Seeing the change in everyone's expressions, the unruly young lady revealed a gloating smile on her pretty face. She curled her lips and stared at Zhuowen mockingly. Clearly, she wanted to see how Zhuowen would embarrass himself. Zhuowen's expression did not change. Instead, he took out a map from his chest. This map was given to him by Black Rose and it recorded the approximate location and area of the Annihilation Forest. Senior, you should know that there's a town called Luchuan Town in the Annihilation Forest. I'm a doctor in this town. There are many mercenaries gathered in Luchuan Town. These mercenaries rely on the elemental cores in the Annihilation Forest to survive. As the mercenaries explore, the map of the Annihilation Forest is naturally drawn. So if you want to know the location of the Annihilation Forest, you don't have to explore it yourself. Zhuowen said as he waved the map in his hand. After receiving the map from Zhuowen, the old man roughly skimmed through it. After confirming that the area depicted on the map was indeed the Annihilation Forest, his expression became much more relaxed. He nodded and said, Little brother is right, I have wronged you. Since you have contributed the map, you should be protected by us. Thank you, senior. Zhuowen cupped his hands and said with a smile. Seeing that the old man was about to take Zhuowen in, the unruly young lady was a little anxious. Just as she was about to object again, the old man glared at her and she did not dare to speak. She could only glare fiercely at Zhuowen, stomp her feet, and walk to the side. Let's set up camp here and rest for the night. We'll leave tomorrow. The old man looked at the pitch-black night sky and waved his hand as he said. With regards to this, the few of them did not have any objections. They began to pack their bags and set up camp. Zhuowen was not afraid of strangers at all. He leisurely packed his bags and set up his tent. Then, he sat in front of the bonfire as if nothing had happened and silently warmed his hands and feet. After packing up the tent, the rest of the people gathered around the bonfire and warmed themselves. The night in the Annihilation Forest was extremely cold. Even though everyone present was a cultivator with a strong cultivation, it was still difficult for them to withstand the bitter cold of the Annihilation Forest. After all, this bitter cold was not an ordinary cold air. It was a powerful cold current that came from the depths of the Annihilation Forest from the Heaven Fiend Underworld Eye. This cold current was not easy for ordinary cultivators to withstand. Little brother, you dare to enter the Annihilation Forest at such a young age. It shows that you have guts. Come, have a cup. The old man laughed and patted Zhuowen's shoulder. He then took out a jar of wine and poured a cup for Zhuowen. What do you mean by guts? Entering the Annihilation Forest with such a weak cultivation is extremely stupid. It's fine if you are stupid, but now you are implicating us. The unruly young lady sitting on the other side of the bonfire rolled her eyes at Zhuowen and coldly snorted. Xia Yu. Little brother is now a member of our team. Can you stop being so stubborn? The old man frowned and said in a low voice. All right. I won't say anything. Really, he is clearly a piece of trash. Why are you being so polite to him? The unruly young lady muttered a few times and turned her head away without saying anything else. The old man looked at the young lady helplessly and said to Zhuowen with a sigh, "Little brother, don't take it to heart. Xia Yu is still young and it is inevitable that she will speak rashly. I hope you don't mind." Zhuowen smiled and shook his head. He naturally would not argue with the unruly young lady. As time passed, Zhuowen and the old man chatted happily. Occasionally, the young man with a faint smile on his face and the oldest lady would chime in a few words. For a moment, the atmosphere was rather warm. As for the unruly young lady, because she was angry, she did not say a word throughout the entire conversation. Instead, she glared fiercely at Zhuowen as if she wanted to eat Zhuowen alive. The other person who hadn't spoken was the girl in the red dress who had saved Zhuowen. Perhaps it was her personality, but the girl in the red dress appeared cold and distant. She gave off a feeling that she was 1,000 miles away from everyone. After this conversation, Zhuowen also learned about the origin of this team. It turned out that these 5 people were from the Lin family of the prefecture capital. The distribution of power in the prefecture capital was intricate and complicated. Among them, the 3 marquises of the prefecture capital were the 3 most powerful forces. Under these 3 forces were the Imperial Sword School and the Jade Lady Galaxy. In addition to these 5 forces, the rest were the forces of the 5 great families of the prefecture capital. Although the 5 great families were not as powerful as the 3 marquises of the prefecture capital, the Imperial Sword School and the Jade Lady Galaxy, they were much more powerful than the other forces. They were recognized as the most powerful force in addition to the 5 great families. The Lin family was one of the 5 great families of the prefecture capital. It was also a powerful force. The 3 young ladies in the team who looked quite similar were the experts of the younger generation of the Lin family. At the same time, they were also sisters. The oldest woman was called Lin Meiyu. She was the eldest sister of the 3 sisters. She had a steady personality and was very organized. Moreover, her strength was not bad. Her cultivation had reached the initial human king realm. The frosty girl was called Lin Chaiyu. She was Zhuowen's second sister. She was a person of few words. She looked cold and indifferent on the surface, but in her heart, she abhorred evil. What she hated the most was the bullying of men and women in front of her. This was also the reason why she suddenly appeared and saved Zhuowen when he was robbed. The unruly young girl was undoubtedly the youngest of the 3 sisters. She had a lively personality, but her words were harsh. At the same time, she was a little unruly. From her performance just now, one could see the characteristics of her personality. Her cultivation had reached the 5th layer of the corporeal yang realm, and she was at the bottom of the 5. The old man was called Lin Xuanzhong. He was the bodyguard sent by the Lin family to protect them. At the same time, he was also the senior of the 3 sisters. The young man with a faint smile on his face seemed to be a cousin of the 3 sisters. His name was Lin Zicheng. He had taken the initiative to follow the 4 to the ancient cavern mansion. However, Zhuowen felt that there was something strange about Lin Zicheng, who always had a faint smile on his face. Although he didn't know why Lin Zicheng gave him such a feeling, Zhuowen still paid more attention to him. The Lin family members knew that the real benefits in this fight for the ancient cavern mansion should belong to the 5 forces, the 3 marquises of the prefecture capital, the Imperial Sword School, and the Jade Lady Star Court. The Lin family could only follow behind and drink the soup. However, they also knew that even if it was just the treasures left behind by the 5 forces, it was still a considerable gain for them. After a series of conversations, Zhuowen could be considered to have integrated into the team. Although the others were still somewhat wary of Zhuowen, there was no longer a sense of estrangement like in the beginning. As night fell, the few of them went into their respective tents to rest. When the morning sun shone on the 2nd day, the Annihilation Forest finally became lively again. Many of the teams woke up early, packed their bags, and headed straight for the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye. When Zhuowen opened the tent, he saw Lin Xuanzhong and the other 4 packing their bags. Naturally, Zhuowen did not continue to laze around in bed. He also got up to pack his bags. When we enter the depths later, don't drag us down, okay? Otherwise, I will not save you if you are in danger. Lin Xiaoyu slowly walked over. She glared fiercely at Zhuo Wen and snorted in a delicate manner. Don't worry. If I am in danger, I won't trouble you. Zhuo Wen replied indifferently. He continued to pack his bags and ignored the young lady who was gritting her teeth. Humph. I hope you will. Lin Xiaoyu snorted coldly and turned to leave. After packing his bags, Lin Xuanzhong glanced at Zhuo Wen and led the team to the shortcut marked on the map. According to the normal route, they would need at least 3 days to reach the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye. If they followed the shortcut marked on the map, it was likely that they would be able to successfully reach the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye before sunset. This would undoubtedly save everyone a lot of time. After entering the shortcut, Zhuo Wen and the rest encountered fewer teams. Obviously, there were not many teams who knew about this shortcut. Along the way, Zhuo Wen purposely stayed at the back and secretly used his mental strength to observe the surroundings. Although this team had Lin Xuanzhong who was at the perfect human king realm and the chances of them encountering a strong opponent were low, Zhuo Wen did not let his guard down. Zhuo Wen's actions did not raise any suspicions. They only thought that Zhuo Wen was too weak, to the point that he was unable to keep up with them. Of course, Zhuo Wen's backward behavior naturally caused Lin Xiaoyu, who had always been dissatisfied with him, to grumble. Naturally, the words that came out of her mouth were not good. Chapter 197. Block the way, brat. This Lin Zicheng is a little strange. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly appeared in his mind, and her voice was filled with a trace of bewilderment. Yes. When I released my mental energy to observe Lin Zicheng earlier, I discovered that there was a faint mental energy membrane surrounding his body. If one did not observe carefully, it would be impossible to discover it. Zhuo Wen's eyes narrowed slightly as he secretly informed Xiao Hei. He. If he wanted to form a mental membrane, he would need at least a 3rd-grade mental strength. In other words, this ordinary-looking Lin Zicheng might very well be a genuine 3rd-tier Arcana Master, Xiao Hei said after a moment of silence. A rank 3 Arcana Master. Since this person has such strength, why is he using a mental energy membrane to hide his aura? Looking at Lin Zicheng in front of him, Zhuo Wen's expression became even more vigilant. Judging from Lin Xuanzhong and the other three's reactions, they knew nothing about Lin Zicheng's grade 3 mental energy. In other words, Lin Zicheng had purposely concealed this from them. I have to be wary of this person. Looks like I'll have to pay more attention to him. After muttering to himself for a while, Zhuo Wen naturally shifted his gaze away and silently followed behind the group. Lin Zicheng, who had been sitting in front, seemed to have noticed something. He tilted his head slightly and glanced at the youth behind him. When he saw that the youth was following behind him as if nothing had happened, he frowned slightly and turned his head back. After traveling for about half a day, a rather spacious muddy road appeared in front of everyone. At the end of the muddy road, there were over a dozen figures standing there. They were like stone sculptures that did not move at all. Zhuo Wen's eyes narrowed as he looked at the group at the end of the muddy road. Zhuo Wen could sense quite a number of powerful auras in this group. In fact, Zhuo Wen even sensed an aura that was not weaker than Lin Xuanzhong's. Clearly, there was also a perfect human king in the group at the front, just like Lin Xuanzhong. Zhuo Wen could only sigh in his heart when he saw this aura. The temptation of the ancient cave mansion was not ordinary. Not long after entering the Annihilation Forest, they had already met 2 perfect human king warriors, including Lin Xuanzhong. It was likely that there would be quite a number of such experts entering the ancient cave mansion this time. When Zhuo Wen's group walked onto the muddy road, the dozen figures standing at the end of the muddy road immediately tightened their grip on their weapons and stared with unfriendly gazes. In an instant, the atmosphere became tense. Zhuo Wen's gaze swept across this group of people. After which, it paused on a robust middle-aged man who stood at the front of the group. The man had a sturdy build, with a stocky back and a bare waist. Both of his arms were bare. Numerous hideous scars covered both of his arms, causing him to appear to be filled with a savage aura. Perfect human king stage. Zhuo Wen's eyes swept across this person and narrowed slightly. It seemed like this person was the leader of this group. His strength was not weak at all. There is also an initial human king stage warrior. Zhuo Wen glanced at the man, and then paused on a young man behind him. He could not help but feel surprised. It seemed that the strength of the team that had appeared was not any weaker than the team that Zhuo Wen was in. Let's go. Lin Xuanzhong's eyes swept across this group of people calmly. Without saying anything, he waved his hand and led the way. When they saw that Lin Xuanzhong's group did not avoid them, a ferocious glint flashed across the eyes of this group of people. They tightened their grip on their weapons. The two groups slowly approached each other. When they were only a few feet away from each other, the atmosphere became tense. Under Lin Xuanzhong's leadership, just as the group was about to pass by that group of people, a strong arm that was covered with hideous scars suddenly stretched out and blocked Lin Xuanzhong's path. Old Master Lin Xuanzhong, don't you intend to greet us when you see us? Are you going to just walk past us? The bare-armed man blocked Lin Xuanzhong's path with his right hand. He grinned and revealed a row of white teeth as he spoke indifferently. Huang Zong, what do you think there is to talk about between our Lin family and your Huang family? Although our two families have always had a grudge against each other, I believe that our target this time is the ancient cave mansion. Now that the ancient cave mansion has yet to open, are you prepared to fight to the death with our Lin family? When he spoke until this point, Lin Xuanzhong fearlessly stared at the middle-aged man called Huang Zong and said indifferently, although your Huang family has sent a lot of people this time around, the strength of your group may not be stronger than ours. If we fight now, I'm afraid that we won't be able to get a share of the treasures in the ancient cave mansion. After Lin Xuanzhong spoke, he coldly stared at Huang Zong in front of him. In an instant, the atmosphere of the scene became rather strange. The few members of the Lin family's group cautiously stared at the group in front of them. They secretly activated the Yuan power in their bodies to prepare for any sudden incidents. Yes. Old Master Lin's words are reasonable. However, our family head has given the order that obtaining the treasures in the ancient cave mansion is secondary. Our main goal is to destroy the group sent by the Lin family this time around. Therefore, although Old Master Lin's suggestion is very reasonable, we still have our lives on our hands. The smile on Huang Zong's lips slowly disappeared and was replaced by a sinister arc as he spoke coldly. When Lin Xuanzhong and the rest heard this, their expressions changed and they frowned slightly. Lin Xuanzhong's expression was rather ugly as he said, "It seems like your Huang family wants to destroy our Lin family's group even if you give up the opportunity to enter the ancient cave mansion. Your family head is indeed daring." After Lin Xuanzhong uttered these words, a powerful aura that was as vast as the ocean immediately erupted from within his body. Zhuo Wen and the rest behind him swiftly retreated the instant Lin Xuanzhong released his aura. Their expressions were cautious as they stared at Huang Zong's group from a distance of over 10 meters away. Old Master Lin, after so many years, your cultivation is still at the perfect human king stage. It seems like with your body that is about to rot, it will be difficult for you to advance any further. However, I am different from you. Back then, I was just a small corporeal young stage warrior. At that time, your existence was worthy of my admiration. After so many years, you have not made any progress. On the other hand, I have risen steadily until I have reached the same level as you. I'm looking forward to it. I wonder how you'll feel when I kill you with my own hands. Huang Zong licked his chapped lips and suddenly took a step forward. An aura that was not weaker than Lin Xuanzhong's immediately poured out from his body. Everyone from the Huang family, listen up. Kill everyone from the Lin family. As long as you kill these people, the family head will reward you handsomely when we return. Huang Zong suddenly shouted in a low voice. His feet stomped on the ground and he was like an ancient giant beast as he charged towards Lin Xuanzhong. May you lead the group and retreat. Lin Xuanzhong also shouted loudly. He clenched his fists and shook his waist as he engaged in a fierce battle with Huang Zong. Bang! 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 Immediately, the sound of metal clashing rang out in the quiet forest. Colorful and dazzling yuan power spilled out in all directions between Huang Zong and Lin Xuanzhong, just like a rainbow that had spilled out. Although the overflowing energy was pleasing to the eye, everyone knew that the energy ripples were not to be trifled with. Even a corporeal yang stage warrior would be seriously injured if he touched it. Lin Meiyu, who had the most stable character, nodded slightly. She knew that with Lin Xuanzhong and Huang Zong's strength, it would be difficult to determine the winner in a short time. The Lin family's goal this time was the ancient cave mansion. If they fought with the Huang family and both sides suffered heavy losses, it would not be worth it. Therefore, as long as the few of them successfully retreated, it would not be difficult for Lin Xuanzhong to escape alone. Therefore, this was the most feasible method at the moment. Second sister, third sister, and the two of you, follow me. Don't fight with the Huang family. There is no need for us to fight to the death with them. Lin Meiyu turned her head and glanced at the few people behind her as she said calmly. The few of them nodded. Immediately, they used their movement techniques and rushed into the depths of the dense forest. Among the Huang family's team, the young man at initial Human King realm did not show any anxiety when he saw Zhuowen and the rest turn around to escape. Instead, a strange arc appeared at the corner of his mouth as he said indifferently, "Can you really escape? Hee, that guy should be about to make a move soon." After the young man finished speaking, he led the people behind him and chased after Zhuowen and the rest. Swoosh! In the quiet dense forest, a few black figures suddenly flew past. It was Zhuowen and the rest. I wonder if third uncle will be alright? Lin Xiaoyu, who was a little unruly, suddenly asked worriedly. Her pretty face was still a little pale. Apparently, what had just happened had a great impact on her. Don't worry. With third uncle's strength, even if he can't defeat Huang Zong, it won't be difficult for him to escape. Lin Meiyu said calmly. Now, we must shake off the Huang family's people. Everyone agreed with Lin Meiyu's words. Immediately, the speed of the group increased significantly. In an instant, they had shaken off the Huang family's people behind them and they could no longer see them. This kind of escape only lasted for 2 hours. Zhuowen and the rest saw a cave in a remote place deep in the dense forest. When they saw the cave, they were naturally overjoyed. After confirming that they had shaken off the Huang family's people, the few of them quickly entered the cave. The cave was quite spacious. In the deepest part of the cave, there was a huge open space. Numerous sharp stone pillars were placed above the cave. There was a gap at the top of the stone pillar. The light from outside shone in through this gap. Therefore, the cave was quite bright. After covering the entrance of the cave, the few of them heaved a sigh of relief and sat in a circle in the open space of the cave. How did the Huang family know that we would pass through this shortcut? According to the map, very few people should know about this shortcut. However, the Huang family just had to wait there. After settling down, Lin Meiyu also felt that something was a little off. Immediately, her pretty eyes contained a trace of doubt as she looked at Zhuowen, who appeared to be silent not far away. Lin Xiaoyu saw that Lin Meiyu was hinting at something. She immediately stood up and pointed her jade-like hand at Zhuowen. She shouted, "It must be you. Big sister is right. Very few people know about this shortcut. Moreover, you are the one who told us about it. Now, the Huang family's people have been waiting for us. Obviously, you are a spy sent by the Huang family." Chapter 198. Turtle in a Jar. Zhuowen frowned as he looked at Lin Xiaoyu, who had her hands on her hips. Her face was filled with hatred and disgust. He replied, "I don't even know the Huang clan. Even before this, I didn't know the Lin clan. How can I be the spy that you mentioned? Moreover, if I were a spy of the Huang family, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been with you at that time. At this point, Zhuowen glanced at Lin Xiaoyu indifferently and said coldly, or do you think that there will be any benefits for me to follow you now? Lin Xiaoyu's face froze when she heard Zhuowen's words. She looked at the young man's calm expression and for some reason, she felt very uncomfortable. If I say you are a spy, then you are a spy. How dare you, a little warrior of the Yin Void realm, be so arrogant in front of me? See if I don't tear your mouth apart. With a soft snort, Lin Xiaoyu stomped on the ground and dashed towards Zhuowen without any explanation. She actually wanted to attack him. Zhuowen's face immediately turned gloomy. Initially, Lin Xiaoyu had targeted him for no reason and he did not take it seriously. At most, he treated her as a circus monkey. However, her actions had worsened and she had pushed the blame to him. Even though Zhuowen had a good temper, he could not help but feel angry. Whoosh! Lin Xiaoyu's figure flashed past like an elegant butterfly and flew towards Zhuowen. Her hands were filled with surging origin power and she did not hold back at all. Bang! Just as Zhuowen was about to attack, a beautiful figure suddenly appeared in front of Zhuowen. The beautiful figure gently pushed her palm forward and easily received Lin Xiaoyu's attack. Second sister. Why are you so protective of this brat? Yesterday, you saved this brat when he was robbed. Now, this person is very likely to be a spy of the Huang family. You still want to stop me? Are you interested in this brat? Lin Xiaoyu stared at the young lady who appeared in front of Zhuowen. She stomped her foot and said in exasperation. When she spoke, she glared fiercely at Zhuowen. Lin Xiaoyu's pretty face reddened slightly when she heard Lin Xiaoyu's unrestrained words. However, she quickly recovered her previous iciness as she faintly said, now is not the time for us to have internal strife. Instead, we should think of a way to escape from the Huang clan's pursuit. Third younger sister, words are no proof. Without any evidence, it's best that we don't accuse innocent people. Moreover, Brother Zhuowen's words are not without reason. If he was really a spy of the Huang clan, he would have immediately changed sides when the Huang clan's team arrived instead of fleeing with us. The steady Lin Meiyu also opened her mouth. Lin Xiaoyu coldly snorted when she saw that her eldest sister and second sister had spoken up. She fiercely glared at Zhuowen and said, I hope you are not a spy of the Huang clan. If you are, I will not let you off easily. After she finished speaking, Lin Xiaoyu elegantly turned around and sat in a corner of the cave to sulk. Zhuowen glanced at Lin Xiaoyu in amusement. With his current strength, he was not even afraid of Lin Xuanzhong, who was the strongest in their team. How could he be afraid of Lin Xiaoyu, who was merely a fifth-stage corporeal yang realm practitioner? Thank you for saving me again, Miss Lin Xiaoyu. Although Lin Xiaoyu did not help them much, Zhuowen naturally would not forget the basic etiquette. Lin Xiaoyu clearly did not like to talk. She coldly glanced at Zhuowen and slightly nodded her head. Then, she walked back to her original position without looking back. Looking at Lin Xiaoyu's back, Zhuowen curled his lips and shrugged his shoulders. He also found a seat and silently sat down. As soon as he sat down, Xiao Hei's voice sounded in his mind, Kid. You are surrounded. The Huang clan's team has already surrounded the entrance of the cave. What? Surrounded? How is that possible? We have clearly left the Huang clan's team far behind. Moreover, this cave is very remote. It should be impossible for them to discover us. Zhuowen was shocked when he heard this and said with some surprise. Theoretically speaking, what you said is not wrong. However, I am certain that there is definitely a traitor in your team. According to my senses, the Huang clan's team did not search this area at all. They came directly to the cave. Obviously, they knew that you were hiding in this cave from the beginning. Xiao Hei's voice sounded in his mind again. So there really is a traitor. After whispering softly, Zhuowen locked his gaze on Lin Zicheng, who had been silent since he entered the cave. Boom! The cave suddenly shook. Then, the entire cave began to shake as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. Many stones rolled down from the ceiling. What's going on? Lin Meiyu was the first to stand up. Her beautiful eyes were filled with uncertainty. Lin Xiaoyu and Lin Chaiyu also stood up with Lin Meiyu. Their eyes were also filled with confusion. What's going on? Of course, the Huang clan's team has attacked. Just when everyone was at a loss, a rather cold voice suddenly sounded. There was a trace of sharpness in the voice. Following the voice, they immediately saw that Lin Zicheng had unknowingly stood up. His gaze was filled with ridicule as he stared at the three Lin sisters. As for Zhuo Wen, who was by the side, he was directly ignored. Obviously, the strength of the Yin Void realm that Zhuo Wen showed did not attract his attention at all. Lin Zicheng, how did you know that the Huang clan's team is attacking us? Moreover, this cave is so secretive. How could the Huang clan find us so quickly? Did you leak our information? Lin Meiyu's beautiful eyes were slightly cold. She looked at Lin Zicheng, whose attitude had suddenly changed. You are indeed the eldest sister of the Lin family. Your insight and reaction are quite good. Now that things have come to this, I don't need to beat around the bush. You guessed right. I leaked your whereabouts and information. Lin Xiaoyu guessed that there was a traitor in the team. She was right, but she suspected the wrong person. Speaking of this, Lin Zicheng glanced at Zhuowen, who was not far away, with some contempt. He sneered and said, "Do you think it's possible for a trash of the Yin Void realm to leak the information without anyone noticing? It's you. Lin Zicheng, the Lin family has treated you well. Why did you betray us?" At this moment, Lin Xiaoyu also jumped out. First, she glanced at Zhuowen coldly. Then, she directly ignored the latter. Obviously, she did not feel guilty about the misunderstanding just now. Then, she pointed at Lin Zicheng angrily. Treated me well? Now that I've made it clear, I won't hide anymore. Lin Zicheng's face revealed a strange smile. Then, a flash of brilliance suddenly flashed across his face. His originally young face rapidly aged. In the blink of an eye, wrinkles appeared on the young face, and finally, an unfamiliar old man with a head full of silver hair appeared. You're not Lin Zicheng. Who the hell are you? And where is Lin Zicheng? Seeing Lin Zicheng's sudden change of expression, Lin Meiyu and the other two all changed their expressions. Among them, Lin Meiyu shouted. My name is He Xian. I'm an Arcana visiting elder of the Huang family. I'm here to destroy your team. As he spoke, Elder He Xian suddenly took a step forward. A solidified spiritual power suddenly poured out and covered the whole cave. Under the effect of this spiritual power, the whole cave shook violently for a few times. A level 3 Arcana Master. Feeling the sudden pressure of the spiritual power, Lin Meiyu and the other two suddenly narrowed their eyes. Then, they covered their mouths and could not help exclaiming. In the corner, Zhuo Wen, who had been ignored, also narrowed his eyes. He frowned a little as he stared at old man He Xian, who was emitting a powerful mental energy from his body. Although he knew from the start that old man He Xian was not simple, he did not expect the old man's mental energy to have reached the 3rd grade. This had exceeded his expectations. It's only the initial success of the 3rd grade mental energy. Kid, your current mental energy has been refined by the myriad expansion scripture, and it has been divided into 8 parts. The strength of these 8 parts has reached the level of perfect 2nd grade. In other words, your spiritual power is equivalent to the attack of 8 level 2 Arcana Masters at the same time. So, in terms of spiritual power, your spiritual power is much more powerful than this old man's. If the two of you fight, it's hard to say who will win. Xiao He said with disdain. Zhuo Wen nodded slightly, but didn't say anything. After cultivating the 10,000 amplification scripture, Zhuo increasingly felt how heaven-defying this secret spirit skill was. Not only could this secret spirit skill infinitely divide the spiritual power in the Mud Pill Palace, but with the help of this secret spirit skill, Zhuo could cultivate every part of the spiritual power to the same level of strength. In other words, the power of Zhuowen's attack was equivalent to the joint attack of several arcana masters at the same level. On the other hand, Zhuowen's spiritual force had already reached the pinnacle of the second level and was on the verge of breaking through. Thus, with 8 portions of pinnacle second-level spiritual force, Zhuowen's true spiritual force was no weaker than an ordinary pinnacle third-level arcana master. Boom! With a loud bang, the cave entrance was suddenly blasted open by a huge force. Immediately, many figures rushed in from the opening of the cave. The one leading them was the young man at the initial Human King realm. You are really here. It seems that the information provided by Elder He Xian is accurate. As soon as the young man entered, he saw Lin Meiyu and the others in the cave and sneered. Big sister. What should we do now? Looking at the mighty Huang family and Elder He Xian, who was glaring at them, Lin Xiaoyu's pretty face suddenly turned pale. She came to Lin Meiyu's side and asked in a panic. Although Lin Xiaoyu's face was still cold, her hands were clenching her weapon. It showed that she was not calm at the moment. Lin Meiyu was really panicking at this time. If it was only the Huang family, she could deal with them with her initial Human King realm strength. However, there was also Elder He Xian, a level 3 Arcana Master. Their current lineup had become somewhat unfavorable. He Xian and the young man clearly saw the fear on the faces of Lin Meiyu and the other two. The two of them looked at each other, and their faces were filled with an expression of victory. Clearly, in their opinion, Lin Meiyu and the other two were already turtles in a jar. Everyone. This one has nothing to do with your grievances. Can you put this one down and leave first, then deal with the matter between you two later? Suddenly, a rather clear and bright voice rang out. Chapter 199. Reveal. At this moment, the cave fell silent. Swish! Swish! Everyone's gazes converged on the corner of the cave, where a rather ordinary-looking young man stood. At this moment, the young man also noticed everyone's gazes, but there was not a trace of nervousness on his face. Instead, he spread out his hands and calmly said, "Actually, I only met with the Lin family along the way. Speaking of which, I have no relationship with the Lin family. Therefore, I will leave now. Everyone shouldn't mind, right?" At this moment, Zhuowen felt a little helpless in his heart. Originally, he wanted to borrow the Lin family's team to avoid some unnecessary trouble along the way. However, who knew that he would be in big trouble now? Zhuowen. You ungrateful bastard. Our Lin family kindly took you in and protected you along the way. Is this how you repay us? Lin Xiaoyu looked at Zhuowen, who was standing nearby with an innocent face. She immediately stomped her foot and said in a flustered and exasperated manner. Zhuowen sneered. To be honest, Zhuowen did not have a good impression of Lin Xiaoyu. After all, she had been picking on him along the way. With my meager strength, do you think I can save you from so many experts? Also, the one who took me in wasn't you, Lin Xiaoyu, but old Master Lin Xuanzhong. This doesn't seem to have anything to do with you. And I still remember that you just said that I'm the traitor, so wouldn't a traitor like me have no reason to save you? Zhuowen pursed his lips and ignored the angry Lin Xiaoyu. Instead, he looked at Elder He Xian. He knew that Elder He Xian was the one who had the most right to speak. Although Zhuowen didn't want to take action, he didn't want to get involved in the trouble of these two families. However, if Elder He Xian didn't let Zhuowen leave, Zhuowen would have to take action. You. Lin Xiaoyu was furious when she saw that Zhuowen did not show any mercy. She was about to scold him when she was stopped by Lin Meiyu. Third sister, you should also speak less. Lin Meiyu glared at Lin Xiaoyu and then looked at Zhuowen meaningfully. She then said to Elder He Xian, what he said is true. You have been following us all the way and you should know that this young man has nothing to do with our Lin family. So let him go. There's no need to involve outsiders in the matters between our families. Big sister Lin is indeed bold. Although this brat's strength is mediocre, and indeed has nothing to do with your Lin family, he's still a genius. However, this old man will not let him go. If this brat leaks the news, I'm afraid your Lin family will start a war with my Huang family. Even if the Lin family knows that it was our Huang family who did it, they won't act rashly. Elder He Xian glanced at Zhuowen indifferently. A cold light flashed in his eyes. Clearly, he was not planning to let Zhuowen go. Hee. Zhuowen, even if you don't have anything to do with our Lin family, you can't escape. You're going to die. Lin Xiaoyu looked at Zhuowen gloatingly. That is to say, you won't let me go? After hearing Elder He Xian's reply, Zhuowen did not look nervous or frightened as everyone expected. Instead, he was terrifyingly calm. Looking at Zhuowen's abnormal behavior, Elder He Xian frowned slightly. In his opinion, Zhuowen was only in the Yin Void realm, and each of them could crush him like an ant. However, Zhuowen, who was as insignificant as an ant in his eyes, did not show any fear when facing them at all. Deliberately mystifying? Huang Lin, send someone to kill this brat. We'll capture the 3 girls as soon as possible. There's no time to waste. Otherwise, the old guy Lin Xuanzhong may come back. The young man in the initial human king realm was Huang Lin. Huang Lin nodded slightly and selected a warrior in the 9th level of the corporeal Yang realm. He pointed at Zhuowen and said, you go and bring me this arrogant brat's head. The warrior who was named nodded slightly. Then, he revealed a sinister smile at Zhuowen. He stomped his foot on the ground and shot towards Zhuowen like an arrow leaving the bow. This brat will definitely die. Let's capture the 3 sisters first. These 3 women are all of the best quality. If I capture them alive and train them into bitches, I wonder what kind of expression the head of the Lin family will have. He Xian stared at Lin Meiyu and the other 2 women. His eyes revealed a trace of obscenity as he chuckled. Now! With a loud shout, old man He Xian and Huang Lin were like 2 shooting stars as they suddenly rushed towards Lin Meiyu and the other 2. Along the way, countless yuan power shot out, faintly emitting intense air explosions. Second sister. You protect third sister. I'll hold off these 2 for you. If there's a chance, you should escape first. Once you find third uncle, we'll be saved. Lin Meiyu instructed. She rushed toward Elder He Xian and Huang Lin Xuanzhong without looking back. She waved her hand and a blazing yuan force burst out. Boom! A dazzling light burst out in the cave. Lin Meiyu, Elder He Xian, and Huang Lin collided fiercely in the open space of the cave. Bang! 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 Colorful yuan power accompanied by countless forces immediately swept across the entire open ground. The energy ripples that were emitted from the collision also blasted quite a number of deep pits in the open ground. Third sister. Big sister is right. We can only be saved if we rush out and find third uncle. Lin Qiaoyu instructed Lin Xiaoyu. With a wave of her jade-like hand, a small and exquisite curved blade appeared in her palm. Her jade-like feet gently stepped off the ground. Like a butterfly, Lin Qiaoyu ferociously charged towards the remaining Huang family troops. Lin Xiaoyu knew that they had to fight. She gritted her teeth and took out her weapon. She followed behind Lin Qiaoyu and fought with the Huang family members. In an instant, the entire cave was filled with the ear-piercing sound of metal clashing and the sound of fierce fighting. The originally quiet cave became chaotic and noisy in an instant. Lin Meiyu. Do you think that with your mere initial human king realm cultivation base, you are a match for the 2 of us if we join forces? If you don't want to suffer, I advise you to surrender obediently. In the middle of the cave, the battle between Lin Meiyu, Elder He Xian, and Huang Lin became even more intense. However, Lin Meiyu was naturally at an absolute disadvantage under the combined efforts of Elder He Xian and Huang Lin. Lin Meiyu frowned and her face became extremely pale. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of her cherry-red lips. Apparently, she had suffered serious internal injuries. Lin Meiyu did not reply. She continued to circulate the yuan power in her body. She used her weak and delicate body to block the continuous attacks of the two experts. Under the continuous attacks, Lin Meiyu's aura became weaker and weaker, and the injuries on her delicate body became more and more serious. It seems like you want to do this the hard way. Don't blame me for being ruthless. Elder He Xian's eyes darkened. A large amount of mental strength gushed out from his Naiwan palace. The mental strength condensed into a golden longsword in midair. Secret skill, Golden Light Sword. With a low growl, Elder He Xian waved his right hand gently. The golden longsword that was condensed in midair immediately pierced through the void and shot directly toward Lin Meiyu. Boom! Lin Meiyu also felt the surging aura of the golden light sword. Her expression changed and she took out a small bronze shield from her qiankun bag. The small bronze shield was obviously a soul treasure. Judging from its aura, it should be a middle-rank soul treasure. Once the small bronze shield was taken out, it turned into a huge bronze shield that stood in front of Lin Meiyu. Bang! A crisp sound of metal clashing rang out as the golden light sword violently collided with the bronze shield. Dazzling sparks appeared at the point where the two collided. Crack! This stalemate lasted for a while before a clear cracking sound rang out. Following which, traces of cracks actually appeared on the surface of the small bronze shield after the collision with the golden light sword. These cracks were like a spider web as they spread out in all directions. Finally, it completely shattered into pieces. Puff! A trace of horror flashed across Lin Meiyu's beautiful eyes. Under the effect of the huge force, her delicate body was like a falling leaf as it flew backwards. Finally, she collided with the rock wall. She spat out a mouthful of fresh blood and slowly fell to the ground. Big sister! Big sister! Two horrified voices suddenly rang out. Lin Chaiyu and Lin Xiaoyu, who were in the middle of a fierce battle, saw Lin Meiyu's body flying backward and the cherry-red blood flowing from the corner of her mouth. Don't worry. Your fate is the same as your big sister's. Come here. Elder He Xian's ear-piercing laughter suddenly rang out. Then, a huge mental energy, as powerful as the ocean, suddenly acted on Lin Chaiyu and Lin Xiaoyu. Under the effect of this powerful mental energy, the two of them were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. They could not move at all. Seeing that their bodies could not move at all and Lin Meiyu's aura had become very weak, Lin Chaiyu and Lin Xiaoyu's faces were filled with despair. They knew that they were doomed this time. The three sisters of the Lin family are finally captured. This mission can be said to have been completed perfectly. This time, the head of the Lin family will probably reward us with something good. Looking at the three sisters of the Lin family who could not move, Huang Lin suddenly let out a hearty laugh. There was a hint of obscurity in his eyes as he stared at the three women. Swoosh! However, just as Huang Lin was laughing complacently, a black shadow suddenly shot towards him like an arrow leaving the bow. Huang Lin's expression changed. He pulled his right hand slightly and caught the black shadow that suddenly appeared in his hand. However, when he saw the true face of the black shadow, his pupils suddenly shrank to the size of a needle. This was because the black shadow was not a stranger. It was actually the subordinate that he had sent to kill Zhuowen. The head of this subordinate was strangely bent. There was a look of horror on his face. His eyes were wide open and it was obvious that he had died with a grievance. Swoosh! When Huang Lin saw the corpse, he had a bad feeling in his heart. He tilted his head slightly and immediately looked at the corner where Zhuowen had been. Have you discovered it? But that's fine too. You can die now. A clear voice suddenly came from behind Huang Lin. Huang Lin suddenly turned his head and was shocked to find that Zhuowen had unknowingly appeared behind him. At this moment, Zhuowen's body was covered in a strange black flame armor. Countless bone spikes covered the armor. At a glance, it looked quite ferocious and gloomy. Zhuowen, who was in mid-air, suddenly twisted his body. In a strange posture, he completed the movement of turning in the air. The whip leg that had been ready for a long time suddenly hit Huang Lin's back with a loud bang. Boom! Under the huge impact of the whip leg, Huang Lin's entire body fell straight down like a falling meteor. Finally, he smashed into the ground and created a huge deep pit. Chapter 200. Beheading. After a long period of silence, an unbelievable uproar suddenly broke out in the cave. Everyone stared blankly at the huge pit in the middle of the open space. Through the misty dust, they could even vaguely see a figure lying in the pit and struggling in pain. Hiss! When everyone confirmed that the person in the deep pit was indeed Huang Lin, who was at initial human king realm, they could not help but gasp in shock. Huang Lin had actually been knocked down by an unknown youth in one move. Such an outcome was too shocking to the eyes. Aren't you a warrior of the Yin Void realm? Who are you? At this moment, the smile on Elder He Xian's face suddenly froze. His pupils constricted as he looked at the young man in front of him. The three sisters of the Lin family, whose faces were originally filled with despair, revealed an expression of disbelief when they saw the young man, whom they had neglected all this while, defeat the extremely powerful Huang Lin in an instant. Among them, the one whose expression was the most interesting was none other than Lin Xiaoyu. Am I hallucinating? Zhuowen's aura is only at the Yin Void realm. How could he defeat Huang Lin, a warrior of the human king realm, with one move? Lin Xiaoyu was in a daze. Her facial muscles seemed to have stiffened. She was stunned on the spot and her eyes were filled with shock and disbelief. Lin Chaiyu and Lin Meiyu looked at each other and saw a trace of shock in each other's eyes. They had never expected that Zhuowen, who had been ignored by them in the group, was actually hiding such a powerful strength. I'm just a nobody. Actually, if you had let me go earlier, I'm afraid that I wouldn't have meddled in other people's business. However, your decision left me with no choice but to take action, Zhuowen said indifferently. I didn't think that there would be an expert like you in the Lin clan's team. It seems that I have underestimated this mission. However, our Huang family cannot afford to fail this mission. Even if your strength is not bad, you will still die here. As soon as Elder He Xian said this, an even more surging mental energy gushed out and headed straight for Zhuowen. At the same time, Huang Lin, who had been smashed into the deep pit by Zhuowen's sneak attack, suddenly shot out. Like an arrow that had been released from a bow, he shot towards Zhuowen. Rich golden light gathered in his thick palm. It was unknown when the two of them actually used their strongest moves, joining hands to deal with Zhuowen. I really didn't think that I would be ambushed by a young corporeal realm warrior. Brat, you must die today. Huang Lin's eyes were crimson red. His speed was extremely fast, like a flash of lightning. His right hand condensed an endless amount of yuan power, and he instantly arrived above Zhuowen. He growled, "Diffraction hammer." At this moment, the concealed aura on Zhuowen's body had also dissipated, so Zhuowen's true yang 8th stage cultivation was fully displayed in front of everyone. Boom! A dazzling golden light, like the sun, suddenly filled the entire cave. Then, Huang Lin's hands formed the shape of a hammer and fiercely hammered downwards. A giant golden hammer, dozens of feet in size, suddenly condensed in the void. It carried an endless amount of energy and fiercely fell towards Zhuowen's position, setting off countless gusts of wind in the process. Although the two of us joined hands to deal with you, it seems that you are not simple since you can hide your aura without anyone noticing. Therefore, you should die a worthy death. Elder He Xian's eyes were full of ruthlessness. He waved his right hand lightly, and the surging mental energy immediately condensed into a giant golden sword under his control. It was his secret spiritual skill, Golden Light Sword. I didn't expect Elder He Xian and Huang Lin to use their strongest trump cards together. Is this young man really that strong in their eyes? Looking at Elder He Xian and Huang Lin using their strongest trump cards, Lin Meiyu's beautiful eyes finally revealed a look of horror. Elder sister. Can Zhuowen take the joint attack of Elder He Xian and Huang Lin? Lin Chaiyu, who had been silent all this time, suddenly asked. It's very difficult. After Elder He Xian and Huang Lin joined hands, their strength is comparable to that of a warrior in the profound human king realm. Although Zhuowen's surprise attack just now injured Huang Lin, he is only in the corporeal yang realm. It is impossible for him to take the attack of those two people. Lin Meiyu frowned slightly and said somewhat helplessly. She knew that Zhuowen was their only chance to escape, but Lin Meiyu was very clear that even if Zhuowen had an extraordinary trump card, the gap between the corporeal yang realm and the human king realm was too big. Therefore, she did not think that Zhuowen could take the joint attack of Elder He Xian and Huang Lin by himself. Is that so? Lin Chaiyu gritted her teeth and said somewhat disappointedly. At this moment, in the open space of the cave, Elder He Xian and Huang Lin's attacks came one after another, landing directly on Zhuowen's body. Just as the two attacks were about to reach Zhuowen's body, an unusually strong mental energy suddenly poured out from the former's body. As soon as this mental energy appeared, the entire cave was filled with an extremely strong mental energy pressure. Many of the weaker warriors in the Huang family trembled under this mental energy pressure and almost knelt down. What a strong mental energy! How can this kid have such a strong mental energy? The moment the mental energy appeared, Elder He Xian and Huang Lin's faces changed dramatically. The two of them looked at each other and saw deep shock in each other's eyes. Bang bang bang. The moment this mental energy appeared, a series of muffled sounds poured out from Zhuowen's body. Then, 7 mental energy of the same strength appeared around Zhuowen's body. 8 streams of suffocating mental energy descended into the cave. In an instant, the mental energy pressure increased by 8 times. Some of the Huang family practitioners, who were struggling to hold on, fell to their knees with a plop under this pressure. Their faces had already turned deathly pale. Complete grade 2 mental energy. And there are 8 of them in a row. How did this kid do it? Elder He Xian's face suddenly showed a trace of horror. His pupils shrank as he looked at the boy in front of him and said in disbelief. Boom! The 8 mental energy around Zhuowen's body suddenly turned into 8 layers of thick golden round shields. They wrapped around Zhuowen's body like a tortoise shell. Elder He Xian's golden light sword and Huang Lin's diffraction hammer hit the golden round shields. Rumble. The entire cave began to tremble in an instant, as if the earth was quaking and the mountains were swaying. The countless sharp stone pillars at the top of the cave began to fall like a rain of swords under this violent tremor. Hurry up and leave, the cave is about to collapse. Elder He Xian looked deeply at the center of the cave, at the young figure who was in the middle of the 2 violent attacks. He waved his hand and broke the rocks that fell beside him as he shouted loudly. After he spoke, old man He Xian waved his hand. His powerful mental energy transformed into a large palm that was dozens of feet in size. It suddenly lifted the 3 Lin sisters, who were not far away, who did not have any strength to resist. After which, it rushed out of the cave. After old man He Xian and the others escaped from the cave, they felt the ground shake again. Then, the huge cave was covered by countless broken rocks. Looks like there's no need for us to make a move. That kid, Zhuowen, is dead for sure. With that kid's strength, I'm afraid he won't be able to escape even if he grows wings. Huang Lin patted his chest as he gazed at the cave that had already been covered, and spoke with some schadenfreude. However, what surprised me is that this kid actually has such powerful mental energy at such a young age. Moreover, he is able to release 8 mental energy at the same time. From this, it seems that his background is not simple. Elder He Xian recalled the scene of Zhuo Wen releasing 8 streams of mental energy, and a look of disbelief appeared on his face. It's really a pity for this kid to be buried in this cave. Since this kid was able to cultivate out 8 strands of mental energy, he obviously has an unusual secret spirit skill. If this old man were to obtain it, my strength would probably rise by another level. Elder He Xian's face revealed a trace of regret as he spoke until this point. Just as he was about to continue speaking, an ear-piercing rumble suddenly sounded. Rumble. A huge hole was suddenly smashed open in the cave that was just covered by rocks. At the same time, a 5-colored ice powder energy cluster was like a meteor that cut through the void and headed straight for the Huang family. How is this possible? This kid is actually not dead? Seeing that the 5-colored energy cluster was getting closer and closer, Huang Lin's eyes widened. He let out a loud roar and suddenly leaped. His hands once again emitted a blazing golden glow. A huge golden hammer was condensed in his hands. Then, he violently smashed it toward the ice fire that was heading straight for him. Rumble. At this moment, countless sparks immediately dissipated. What followed was a continuous explosion. The powerful energy directly exploded the huge golden hammer in the void. The huge energy aftershock was like ripples in the water, violently bombarding Huang Lin's chest. Puchi. Under this attack, Huang Lin's chest directly caved in. A stream of blood spurted out from his mouth and drew a sharp parabola in the air. Bang! Huang Lin's body was like a butterfly with its wings broken. Like a willow catkin in the wind, he fell straight down. With a loud rumble, he smashed a huge deep hole in the ground. Endless smoke and dust also swept up. Swoosh! 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 Numerous gazes gathered in the hole. At this moment, Huang Lin was lying on his back in the hole. The clothes on his body had been torn into pieces by a powerful force. Huang Lin's entire chest had caved in. Blood had already dyed his entire body scarlet. Everyone sucked in a breath of cold air as they looked at Huang Lin, who was on the verge of death, in the crater. Elder He Xian also saw Huang Lin's current miserable state. His sharp pupils suddenly shrank. With his eyesight, he could see that Huang Lin's injuries were so serious that they were incurable. Therefore, Huang Lin was definitely going to die. Dang! 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 Chapter 201. Run away. At this moment, the young man's entire body was covered in golden light. A tortoise-shell-like golden round shield enveloped the young man's body, making him look like a golden-armored god of war. He looked quite mighty. However, the number of golden round shields had been reduced from 8 layers to 1 layer. It was obvious that the power of the first 7 layers had been used up when the cave collapsed. Elder He Xian's face twitched when he saw that there was still a layer of golden round shield on the surface of the young man's body. His face darkened. He had not expected the ordinary-looking young man to have such amazing combat strength. Even Huang Lin, who was at initial human king realm, had been defeated by him. He knew very well that his strength was on par with Huang Lin. Since the young man in front of him could severely injure Huang Lin, it would not be difficult for the young man to defeat him. Thinking of this, cold sweat appeared on Elder He Xian's forehead. He finally knew how troublesome the person he had offended was. At this moment, his heart was full of regret. If he had let Zhuoan go just now, there would be no trouble now. He had never thought that a warrior of the Yin Void realm, who had been ignored by them from the beginning, was actually an expert who hid his cultivation and killed Huang Lin in front of them. This person cannot be defeated by force. Elder He Xian knew that since his secret spiritual skill, Golden Light Sword, couldn't penetrate Zhuo Wen's golden shield, then he had no chance of winning against Zhuo Wen. Thinking of this, Elder He Xian suddenly cupped his hands and said with a smile, "Little brother, this old man has eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai." I actually didn't see that you actually have such powerful strength. I hope little brother won't forgive me for offending you just now. Little brother, didn't you say that you don't want to meddle in other people's business? What happened just now was my fault. So, for the sake of our Huang family, I hope that little brother will not meddle in our affairs. Naturally, we will not stop you. As soon as old man He Xian said this, Lin Meiyu and her sisters turned pale with fright. Among them, Lin Meiyu, who had a steady personality, couldn't help but curse old man He Xian for being shameless. Lin Meiyu also did not expect that Zhuowen actually possessed such powerful strength. Even Huang Lin had suffered a great loss at his hands. Her originally dim and despairing eyes once again glowed with a strange light. She knew that with Zhuowen's current strength, it would be a piece of cake for him to rescue them. He could even wipe out the entire Huang family. Lin Chaiyu's face was cold, but her beautiful eyes were staring at the young man at the entrance of the cave. The coldness in her eyes was now filled with shock and complexity. She thought back to a few days ago when she had saved the youth. Although the youth had thanked her out of courtesy, there wasn't much gratitude in his eyes. Now, she finally understood the meaning in the youth's eyes. It turned out that his strength was so strong. Her help back then was obviously unnecessary. Thinking of this, Lin Chaiyu revealed a self-deprecating smile. Lin Xiaoyu, who had previously disliked Zhuowen, was completely dumbfounded at this moment. She stared at the deep pit not far away, where Huang Lin was gradually losing his breath. She finally realized that what she was seeing now was not an illusion, but reality. The youth in front of her, whom she had always looked down upon, suddenly displayed strength that made people's expressions change. Even Huang Lin, who was at the initial human king realm, was no match for this youth. Zhuowen, can you help us? If you can help us defeat the Huang family's troops, you will gain the friendship of our Lin family. Our Lin family will even reward you handsomely. Lin Meiyu suddenly opened her mouth and said in an urgent tone. When old man He Xian heard this, his expression changed slightly. The mental strength in his body spread out like a wave and immediately sealed Lin Meiyu's mouth. Then, he looked at Zhuowen with fear and said, I believe that you are a wise man. I don't think that you will offend our Huang family for the sake of these people from the Lin family. You should know that our Huang family is the head of the 5 great families in the province, while the Lin family is ranked last. Old man He Xian suddenly paused. Although he was quite afraid of Zhuowen's strength, he had the Huang family behind him. Therefore, he thought that the youth in front of him would not foolishly choose to go against the Huang family after hearing that they were from the Huang family. However, old man He Xian was obviously wrong. Zhuowen disliked being threatened the most. Moreover, old man He Xian's attitude towards him was not good. Therefore, bang! The golden light on the surface of Zhuowen's body suddenly became brighter, and the golden round shield suddenly became thicker. Then, he stomped his feet on the ground and shot towards old man He Xian like an arrow. I'm sorry, I dislike being threatened the most. Therefore, it is not wise for you to threaten me. Old man He Xian's pupils shrank when he saw Zhuowen rushing towards him. He cursed and immediately turned around to flee. His speed was like a shooting star, and he disappeared from the spot in an instant. Old man He Xian's decisive action of fleeing stunned everyone. They did not expect old man He Xian to not even have the courage to fight. It was obvious that he was frightened by Huang Lin, who was easily defeated by Zhuowen. Moreover, old man He Xian's strength was almost the same as Huang Lin's. Humph! Do you think you can escape? Zhuowen snorted coldly. He first released the mental imprisonment on the 3 sisters of the Lin family. Then, he stomped his feet and rushed towards old man He Xian. Lin Meiyu and the other 2 sisters immediately used their movement techniques and followed closely behind Zhuowen when they felt the mental imprisonment on their bodies disappear. After old man He Xian fled, the Huang clan seemed to have lost their backbone. They immediately scattered like monkeys when the tree falls. Swoosh! In the dense thicket, there were 2 figures, one chasing and the other fleeing. Wherever they passed, many birds would fly away. Behind these two figures, there were 3 other beautiful figures following closely. Damn it! I can't let this person go. Otherwise, if I let him return to the provincial capital, he will definitely find out my identity. At that time, the Zhuo family will be in trouble. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with coldness as he looked at the fleeing figure in front of him. He knew that He Xian's status as a grade 3 arcana master was definitely not low in the Huang family. Since he had already formed an enmity with this person, the best way to deal with him was to eliminate him completely. Otherwise, if He Xian returned, he might really think of ways to deal with the Zhuo family. After all, Zhuowen's identity could be easily found out. He Xian's face was filled with malevolence when he saw the young man chasing after him. He shouted angrily, "Zhuowen, I will remember you. I will repay today's hatred 100-fold in the future. I have said that you will not live past today. Therefore, you must die today." Zhuowen's face was filled with ruthlessness. His speed increased and he quickly closed the distance between the two of them. Seeing that Zhuowen was getting closer and closer, He Xian was so frightened that he did not dare to look back. Instead, he focused on escaping in front. Just as the few of them were chasing and escaping, a tall middle-aged man with bare arms was walking slowly in the forest less than 100 miles away. His slightly raised eyebrows were slightly furrowed. Lin Xuanzhong, that old fart. To think that he still has something up his sleeves. He actually took out a spiritual treasure that could move him at the critical moment. Otherwise, I would have sent that old fart to his grave earlier. The middle-aged man cursed as he walked. It was Huang Zong. Originally, after Huang Lin led the Huang family to chase after Lin Meiyu and the others, the battle between Huang Zong and Lin Xuanzhong became even more intense. In the end, it reached its climax. Although both of them were at the perfect human king stage, Lin Xuanzhong was too old. His physical strength was not as good as Huang Zong's. In the end, Huang Zong found a flaw in Lin Xuanzhong's defense and took a full blow from Huang Zong. Lin Xuanzhong was ultimately defeated by Huang Zong. If it was not for the spiritual treasure that could move him for a short period of time, Lin Xuanzhong might have been killed by Huang Zong. There is the smell of blood. Ha, looks like that old bastard is not far away. If I catch that old bastard this time, I will make him suffer a fate worse than death. How dare he waste my time? However, Huang Lin and Elder He Xian should have caught the 3 Lin sisters by now. If we can kill Lin Xuanzhong this time, this mission will be perfect. As Huang Zong spoke, he followed the faint smell of blood in the air and used his movement technique to rush forward. After going around a few bushes, he arrived at an open space. At this moment, the smell of blood was at its thickest. He knew that Lin Xuanzhong was here. Sure enough, Lin Xuanzhong was leaning against a tree trunk in an inconspicuous corner of the open space. He panted as he looked at Huang Zong, who was slowly walking toward him. A bitter smile appeared on his face as he said, "It looks like I will not be able to escape death today. Old Master Lin Xuanzhong, I have said that your glory is long gone. Therefore, dying in my hands will not be a disgrace to your former glory." Huang Zong slowly walked toward Lin Xuanzhong. There was no urgency on his face as he spoke as if he was talking to a friend. What a pity. If I take another step forward, I will be able to advance to the Earth King stage. At that time, my lifespan will be increased by 10 years. At that time, how can I allow a grasshopper like you to jump around in front of me? Lin Xuanzhong replied helplessly. What's the use of feeling pity? Now that you are going to die, remember my name. The person who is going to kill you is Huang Zong. At this point, Huang Zong stomped his foot and charged towards Lin Xian, who was leaning against the tree trunk. Endless yuan power gathered in his hands. Huang Zong. Hurry up and save me. Just as Huang Zong was about to kill Lin Xuanzhong, a familiar and panicked voice suddenly rang out from nearby. Huang Zong tilted his head and saw Elder He Xian running toward him in a panic. Elder He Xian kept looking behind him as he ran, like a cat with its tail between its legs. Huang Zong was even more confused when he saw Elder He Xian, who was running like a stray dog. He knew Elder He Xian's strength very well. He was a grade 3 Arcana master. With Elder He Xian's strength, other than Lin Xuanzhong, no one in the Lin clan's team could threaten him. Moreover, the Huang clan's team had Huang Lin, who was at the initial Human King stage. In Huang Zong's opinion, capturing the rest of the Lin clan would be a piece of cake. However, Huang Zong had an ominous feeling when he saw Elder He Xian running away in a panic. Huang Zong shifted his gaze and looked behind Old Man He Xian. He wanted to see who exactly was the person who could turn Old Man He Xian into such a state. Chapter 202. Huang Zong. Not far behind Old Man He Xian, there was also a black figure swiftly rushing over. When Huang Zong's eyes shifted to the face of the black figure, a stunned expression immediately surfaced on his face. Because the person who chased after Elder He Xian was a 16-year-old boy. What was even more incredible was that he also knew this boy. He was actually an ordinary warrior of the Yin Void realm in the Lin family's team. What's going on? Why is He Xian being chased so miserably by a junior? Huang Zong frowned slightly and muttered softly. Lin Xuanzhong, who was leaning against the tree trunk, naturally heard Old Man He Xian's cry for help. He tilted his head and looked over in surprise. When he saw Old Man He Xian, he had a bad feeling. So it's Elder He Xian. No wonder you're so confident. You're willing to take the risk of falling out with the Lin family to exterminate us. To think that even a grade 3 Arcana master would be invited over. Lin Xian coughed heavily and spoke in a rather gloomy manner. He knew that if Old Man He Xian joined them, the Lin family's team would be in a dire situation. However, he soon realized that something was wrong because he found that Elder He Xian's face was full of panic, and he looked back from time to time. Following Elder He Xian's line of sight, Zhuowen finally saw the young man who was constantly chasing behind him. This young man was none other than Zhuowen. Zhuowen. This. He had chased Elder He Xian into such a sorry state. Wasn't his strength only in the Yin Void realm? How did he do it? Lin Xuanzhong's mouth was slightly agape. His hands were trembling as he asked in disbelief. Whoosh! A whooshing sound appeared. Elder He Xian instantly arrived beside Huang Zong. His face was terrifyingly pale. Elder He Xian, what is going on? Didn't you cooperate with Huang Lin to encircle and annihilate those people from the Lin family? How did he end up in such a sorry state? And the young man behind you is the warrior in the Yin Void realm in the Lin family's team? Looking at the flustered Elder He Xian, Huang Zong's sense of foreboding became even more intense. Our Huang family's team is finished. Even Huang Lin is dead. Elder He Xian said with a trembling voice. Huang Lin is dead. How is this possible? He is a martial artist of the initial Human King realm. How can he die with such strength? Even the strongest member of the Chen clan, Lin Meiyu, should not have the strength to kill Huang Lin. Huang Zong's round eyes widened in fury as he exclaimed. Huang Lin Xuanzhong's team killed Huang Lin Xuanzhong's team. Was killed Huang Lin Xian. He Xian's He Xian. He Xian was Xian 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 was still realm was Huang Lin Xian's. Huang Xian 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 Studio Xian 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 He Xian's Xian's S Huang Xian's elder, he Huang He Xian Xian's. Hearing Elder He Xian's words, Huang Zong and Lin Xuanzhong couldn't help but gasp. Their pupils constricted as they looked at the rapidly approaching black figure. Lin Xuanzhong was stunned. He didn't expect Zhuowen to be so powerful. He knew that Zhuowen's Yin Void realm strength was just a disguise. It turns out that Zhuowen was hiding such a powerful strength. It seems that I misjudged him. Lin Xuanzhong said with a wry smile. However, his eyes were filled with a glint when he looked at Zhuo Wen. He knew that since Zhuo Wen was able to chase Elder He Xian until he was in such a miserable state, he was definitely not from the Huang clan. Whoosh! Zhuo Wen's speed was extremely fast. He arrived at the open space in an instant. He stood tall and straight, 10 meters away from Huang Zong and Lin Xuanzhong. He didn't expect to meet Huang Zong, the strongest member of the Huang family, here. I met Huang Zong. At this point, Zhuo Wenwei glanced at Lin Xuanzhong who was leaning against a tree trunk. It seems like old master Lin Xuanzhong has been defeated. Zhuo Wen didn't expect that Huang Zong and Lin Xuanzhong, both of whom were in the exceptional human king realm, would be seriously injured by Lin Xuanzhong. It seemed that Huang Zong was not simple. Whoosh! 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 Shortly after Zhuo Wen landed, 3 wind-breaking sounds were heard. Then, 3 beautiful figures appeared on the open space. They were Lin Meiyu and her sisters. When they saw that Lin Xuanzhong was severely injured, the 3 ladies were shocked. They quickly went to Lin Xuanzhong's side. Lin Meiyu frowned and asked, "Third uncle, how did you get injured?" "Huang Zong is stronger than me. He has reached the half-step to Earth King realm. So, I am not his match," Lin Xuanzhong said helplessly. Was Huang Lin from the Huang family really killed by Zhuo Wen? Lin Xuanzhong frowned and asked doubtfully. The 3 girls looked at each other and nodded. Lin Meiyu said, Huang Lin was indeed killed by Zhuo Wen. Moreover, Huang Lin and Elder He Xian couldn't do anything to him even when they joined forces. That guy is very strong. He has been hiding his strength all this time. Indeed, I didn't expect Zhuo Wen to have such strength at such a young age. With such talent and strength, he would be a dazzling genius even in the province. I didn't expect to meet such a talented genius in such a small place. Lin Xuanzhong sighed and looked at Zhuo Wen's back enviously. He knew that Zhuo Wen had a bright future if he could achieve such strength at such a young age. Lin Xian's praise caused the 3 ladies to involuntarily turn their gazes to a short distance away. There was a tall and straight figure that wasn't considered majestic. Their gazes were filled with a strong sense of complexity. Among them, Lin Xiaoyu was even more ashamed. Her beautiful eyes did not dare to look directly at Zhuo Wen's back. She recalled all the things she had done to Zhuo Wen in the past. She even openly mocked him for being weak. Now that she thought about it, Lin Xiaoyu suddenly realized how ridiculous she was. With Zhuo Wen's strength, why would he need the Lin family's protection? Moreover, it was the exact opposite. The Lin family was saved by the young man in front of her. Looking at Elder He Xian and Huang Zong, who were standing side by side in front of him, Zhuo Wen's eyes flickered. He knew that since he had killed Huang Lin, it could be said that he had formed a feud with the Huang family. The 2 people in front of him were of high status in the Huang family. If he let them go, it would be easy for them to find out about his relationship with the Zhuo family. They might even deal with the Zhuo family because of this. Therefore, in order to prevent his identity from being exposed, Zhuo Wen's only choice was to kill the 2 people in front of him. This was the safest way. Originally, I had no intention of becoming enemies with the Huang family. However, Elder He Xian wanted to kill me. Therefore, what I did just now could be said to be self-defense. However, now that I have formed a feud with the Huang family, I can only kill the 2 of you here to prevent my identity from being exposed. At this point, Zhuo Wen's eyes suddenly turned cold. There was a strong killing intent in the depths of his eyes. I am indeed surprised that you could kill Huang Lin. However, if you think that I am the same as Huang Lin, then you are very wrong. However, the fact that you can kill an initial human king proves that you are quite capable. However, this is as far as you can go. You are destined to die after killing the people of the Huang family. Huang Zong's face finally regained its calmness. He stomped his foot and a wave of yuan power poured out like a heavy mountain, shrouding the entire open space. Elder He Xian, let's kill this kid together. The people of the Huang family are not so easy to kill. Huang Zong turned his head and glanced at old man He Xian. He spoke faintly before he leaped and rushed towards Zhuo Wen. Upon hearing these words, Elder He Xian's spirit was shaken. Now that he had the backing of a half-step to earthly king stage expert like Huang Zong, Elder He Xian's confidence was greatly boosted. His pale face also regained some color. Kid! You are dead meat. No one who offends our Huang clan will have a good ending. Just now, you actually put me in such a miserable state. Later, I will pay you back double. Elder He Xian laughed coldly. He also followed behind Huang Zong and rushed towards Zhuo Wen. Old Master Lin, the four of you stay back for now. Let me deal with these two. Zhuo Wen was not afraid at all. He waved his hand and instructed Lin Xuanzhong and the other three behind him. Then, he released 8 streams of mental energy from his Naiwan palace and surrounded his body. With a stomp of his foot, his entire body was like a spring as he brazenly charged toward Huang Zong and old man He Xian. Lin Xuanzhong and the other 3 people knew that they could not help at this time. They followed Zhuo Wen's instructions and retreated a few hundred meters. They hid in the bushes and watched the battle in the open space. Third uncle. If what you said is true, Huang Zong is a half-step to earthly king realm expert. Zhuo Wen is probably not his match. Moreover, there is a grade 3 arcana master like Elder He Xian eyeing him covetously. What should we do now? Lin Meiyu said helplessly. I am seriously injured and have less than 10% of my strength left. The 4 of you are too weak. You are no match for Huang Zong and Elder He Xian. Now, our only hope is Zhuo Wen. Only if Zhuo Wen wins this battle will we have a chance to survive. If he loses, with our current state, we won't be able to escape from Huang Zong's grasp. Lin Xuanzhong smiled bitterly and helplessly. He knew that the 4 of them could only rely on the young man not far away. You must win. Lin Meiyu and the other 2 women looked at the back of Huang Zong and could not help but clench their fists and murmur in their hearts. On the open space, Zhuo Wen, who was surrounded by 8 golden round shields, looked coldly at Huang Zong and Elder He Xian who were getting closer and closer. Suddenly, a cold smile appeared on his face. I did not expect that I would have to use this move before entering the ancient cave mansion. However, it is not a loss to deal with the 2 of you. Chapter 203. Shui Le Ciel Swoosh. The black-colored Nirvana demon flame and the blue-colored heaven terminus cold air immediately emerged from Zhuo Wen's hands. Following which, Zhuo Wen unceremoniously clasped his hands together. The 2 types of ice and fire energy immediately merged together. Under the cover of countless sparks, they transformed into a colorful energy ball. Bang! The moment the ice-fire ball was formed, a powerful aura that caused one to feel suffocated immediately covered the entire open space. Even the surrounding air seemed to have solidified. Let's decide life and death with one move. I still have to rush to the heaven terminus dark eye. Zhuo Wen said in an indifferent tone while holding the ice-fire ball in his hand. Huang Zong and Elder He Xian were both stunned as they stared at the ice-fire ball in Zhuo Wen's palm. They could naturally feel that the ice-fire ball contained an unusual energy fluctuation. What exactly is the thing in this brat's hand? Why does it possess such a powerful aura? Huang Zong's gaze hardened slightly. He stared at the ice-fire ball in Zhuo Wen's palm and asked fearfully. Huang Zong, you should be careful. Huang Lin was killed by this move of this brat. That strange 5-colored ball is not ordinary. Elder He Xian also saw the ice-fire ball in Zhuo Wen's palm. His expression changed slightly as he spoke. He still clearly remembered how miserable Huang Lin had ended up under this kind of explosion. Moreover, he faintly felt that the ice-fire ball that Zhuo Wen had used now was much stronger than before. Elder He Xian's feeling was not wrong. When Zhuowen killed Huang Lin, he had used the ice fireball that was a combination of ordinary grade ice and fire energy. Now, he was using the man-grade ice and fire energy to create a truly powerful ice fireball. Its power was dozens of times stronger than before. Humph. Although this brat's body is a little strange, his cultivation level is merely at corporeal yang stage 8. Even with the support of 8 perfect tier 2 mental energy, he is at most comparable to an advanced human king stage expert. Moreover, I have already reached the half step to earthly king stage. It is not difficult to capture this brat. Huang Zong's endless yuan power immediately burst forth as he spoke. Both of his hands suddenly stretched out and a huge machete appeared in his hands. Clang! Suddenly pulling out the machete, Huang Zong took a step in the air and his speed increased. In an instant, he was above Zhuowen's head. Holding the machete in his hand, he slashed downwards. Mountain-splitting saber dipper. With a low roar, the machete in Huang Zong's hand began to expand at a speed visible to the naked eye. It turned into a huge blade that was dozens of feet long in the air. Moreover, the blade was wrapped in countless astral winds and blade chi that crisscrossed, as if even the air was about to be torn apart. Not far away, Lin Xian looked at the huge blade that extended from the void. His wrinkled face immediately changed and his expression became extremely ugly. It's actually the mountain-splitting blade. That's a high earth tier armor technique. Even in the Huang family, it's a rare armor technique. I never expected that Huang Zong would still have such a technique. Looks like he did not use his full strength when he fought with me. Lin Xuanzhong said with an ugly expression. Third uncle. Can Zhuowen take this technique? Lin Chaiyu, who had been silent all this while, suddenly asked with a cold expression on her face. However, while she was asking, Lin Chaiyu's beautiful eyes were filled with worry as she looked at the youth who was standing upright not far away. Her pair of delicate fists were tightly clenched. Lin Xuanzhong looked strangely at Lin Chaiyu, who had suddenly opened her mouth to ask a question. In his impression, Lin Chaiyu had a cold personality. She was neither friendly nor friendly to anyone. Moreover, she was not good with words. It was the first time Lin Xuanzhong had seen her ask an outsider about something. Even Lin Meiyu and Lin Xiaoyu, who were standing beside him, looked at Lin Chaiyu with a strange expression. Obviously, the two of them were surprised by Lin Chaiyu's current behavior. Feeling the gazes of the three people, Lin Chaiyu's eyes flashed slightly. Her crystal-clear cheeks revealed a trace of crimson, but this trace of crimson was quickly replaced by a cold expression. Actually, I don't know either. After all, Huang Zong is a half-step to earthly king stage expert. Now that he has used a high earth-tier armor technique, its power is self-evident. The power of Zhuowen's multicolored sphere cannot be underestimated either. Even I am not sure who is stronger between the two of them. Lin Xuanzhong's mouth revealed a trace of a bitter smile. He knew that since Huang Zong had used a high earth-tier armor technique, the former believed that Zhuowen was indeed very difficult to deal with. After all, Huang Zong had not used such an armor technique when they fought. Boom! While Lin Xuanzhong and the other three watched from afar with fear and trepidation, Zhuowen, who was on the open ground, gently tossed his right hand. The ice fireball was like a meteor as it streaked across the void and violently collided with the huge blade in the void. Immediately, a monstrous explosion resounded, destructive energy spread out from the void and ripples appeared in the void. Under these ripples, endless air waves accompanied by strong winds swept across the entire open ground. Countless trees within 100 miles of the open ground were uprooted and turned into fine powder under the powerful energy. Under the powerful energy aftermath, Lin Xuanzhong and the other three, who were 100 miles away, staggered and almost lost their balance. So powerful. Looking at the destructive energy fluctuation in the void, Lin Xuanzhong and the other three could not help but exclaim. Even they had never seen a collision of this level. Elder He Xian had already retreated 100 miles away when he saw that the timing was not right. His eyes were immediately filled with shock as he looked at the ruins within 100 miles of the empty ground. He had never imagined that the fight between the two of them would actually create such a huge commotion. I did not expect Zhuowen to be able to fight with Huang Zong, who is a half-step to earthly king. This is beyond my expectations. Elder He Xian's eyes flickered and there was no longer a trace of pride on his face. He realized that he had once again underestimated Zhuowen's strength. Bang! 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 A series of explosions suddenly burst forth in the sky. Immediately, the void exploded with colorful lights. Huang Zong's pupils shrank when he saw that the huge blade in the void had actually started to sway under the explosion. Crack! A crisp sound resounded through the void. Huang Zong's narrowed pupils shrank again until they were as small as needles. In the reflection of his eyes, he could see that the surface of the huge blade in the void had actually started to crack. The cracks spread out like a spider web, and finally, it broke apart, poochie. A strong recoil force was like a whip kick that violently hit Huang Zong's chest. Under the strong force, Huang Zong was like a falling meteor. He spat out a mouthful of blood and fell straight down. Boom! A huge pit suddenly appeared on the hard open ground and dust filled the air. 100 miles away, Elder He Xian's eyes suddenly widened, and his face became extremely pale. He looked at the broken blade in the void in disbelief, and the dispirited figure in the huge pit below in the open space, advanced earthly armor skill, mountain-splitting blade aura. It was actually broken. Huang Zong is actually not a match for this kid. Elder He Xian's lips trembled slightly as he exclaimed. On the other side, Lin Xuanzhong and the other three suddenly became quiet. Only the sound of rapid breathing could be heard among the four of them. Huang Zong, lost? In the end, Lin Xuanzhong spoke out everyone's thoughts. He stared blankly at the huge pit in the open ground and the young man who was still standing on the ground and said in disbelief. This guy is actually so strong that even Huang Zong is not a match for him. Looks like our crisis this time is over. This time, Zhuowen has saved us. Looks like we have to thank him properly. Lin Meiyu's originally tense face also relaxed as she said with a smile. Meiyu is right. The reason we were saved this time is all because of little brother Zhuowen. It would not be right if we did not show our gratitude. Lin Xuanzhong also recovered from his shock and said with a joyful expression. Dang dang dang. The clear sound of footsteps slowly sounded from the empty ground. Zhuowen slowly walked towards the huge pit in the middle. His expression was indifferent as he looked at the dispirited and listless Huang Zong in the pit and said in an indifferent voice, "Do you have any last words?" At this moment, Huang Zong's clothes were torn and countless wounds were densely packed on his body. Blood spurted out like a fountain and actually accumulated in the pit. Slowly turning his head, Huang Zong's eyes were filled with resentment and unwillingness as he said, "Zhuowen. I have said before that those who kill my Huang family members will not have a good ending. Even if I die, I will not let you off." When these words were spoken, a trace of an ominous feeling flashed across Zhuowen's heart. His feet lightly stepped and he wanted to quickly retreat. However, Huang Zong suddenly had the strength from somewhere. His right hand clenched and pinched Zhuowen's ankle. At the same time, Huang Zong's left hand drew a strange blood-colored symbol on Zhuowen's forehead. Once the blood-colored symbol was formed, it turned into a bloody glow. With a swoosh, it actually entered Zhuowen's forehead and turned into a blood-colored symbol on his forehead. Damn it! Zhuowen shouted angrily. His right palm suddenly slammed on Huang Zong's forehead and completely killed him. His right leg swung and Huang Zong's right hand was flung away. Blood seal. Huang Zong actually risked his life to use such a sinister secret technique. Lin Xuanzhong also saw the scene on the empty ground. Looking at the blood-colored symbol on Zhuowen's forehead, he turned pale with fright. On the empty ground, Zhuowen held his forehead as beads of cold sweat involuntarily appeared. His expression was extremely gloomy. What exactly is this thing? It's actually stuck to my forehead, and even affected my spiritual power. When the blood seal was formed on Zhuowen's forehead, Zhuowen could feel that the mental energy in his Naiwen palace seemed to be blocked. It was somewhat difficult for him to activate it. Kid. This thing is very troublesome. If this Dragon Lord's guess is correct, this should be a secret technique that seals your mental energy. It seems like that guy was actually hiding something before he died. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly rang out in his mind. Chapter 204. Leave. Even I have never heard of such a secret technique. However, Lin Xuanzhong, whom you saved, might have a way. After all, that fellow is also one of the 5 great clans in the prefecture. He should have some understanding of the Huang clan, which is also one of the 5 great clans. At this point, Xiao Hei changed the topic and said, but you should deal with the fish that escaped the net first. Nodding slightly, Zhuowen tilted his head and looked at Elder He Xian, who was hiding in the distance. A cold smile appeared on his face as he said, I have the same intention. As he spoke, he stomped on the ground and shot toward Elder He Xian like an arrow that was shot from a bow. Elder He Xian had long been scared out of his wits by Zhuowen's powerful aura. Moreover, due to the huge impact of the ice fire just now, he was also affected and suffered quite a few internal injuries. Therefore, Zhuowen killed Elder He Xian, who was at his wits' end, in a few moves. Moreover, he took the opportunity to take the Qiankuan bag from the latter's waist. After dealing with Elder He Xian, Zhuowen came to the side of Huang Zong's corpse and unceremoniously took his Qiankuan bag. Holding the 2 Qiankuan bags in his hands, Zhuowen quickly scanned through the contents of the Qiankuan bags. To his surprise, he found the secret spirit skill, Golden Light Sword, in Elder He Xian's Qiankuan bag. This made Zhuowen quite excited. Zhuowen naturally knew the power of the Golden Light Sword. It was a powerful secret skill that could almost penetrate a middle-grade soul treasure. Back in the cave, Zhuowen had used 8 strands of mental strength to condense a golden shield to completely block it. However, 7 of the shields had been destroyed in the process, leaving only the innermost one undamaged. From this point alone, one could see how powerful the secret technique was. Moreover, Zhuowen possessed the heaven-defying 10,000 amplification scripture. With the 10,000 amplification scripture's limitless differentiation effect and his other secret spirit skills, he was able to display an extremely frightening might. Take Zhuowen as an example. At this moment, Zhuowen had 8 strands of mental energy in his body. Therefore, after Zhuowen cultivated the Golden Light Sword, he could release 8 powerful Golden Light Swords. Apart from this set of secret spirit skill which was relatively precious, the rest of the items in Elder He Xian's Qiankuan bag were relatively ordinary. However, the items in Huang Zong's Qiankuan bag disappointed Zhuowen. There were not many items in Huang Zong's Qiankuan bag, and to Zhuowen, they were basically useless items. However, after searching, Zhuowen still found a defensive soul treasure. This defensive numinous treasure was a piece of inner armor. Its surface was made of interwoven snow-white silk. It was quite comfortable and smooth to the touch. Judging from the aura of this numinous treasure should be a middle-level numinous treasure. No wonder he's the leader of the 5 great families in the prefecture. The person he casually sent out has a middle-grade numinous treasure. It seems like our Rot-10 armor city cannot be compared to the prefecture. Smacking his lips, Zhuowen did not stop dripping his blood on the inner armor. During the process, Zhuowen also found out that this inner armor was called the Ice Silk Armor. The ancient cave mansion was an extremely dangerous place for Zhuowen. If he wanted to obtain benefits from it, he had to become stronger. Now that Zhuowen had obtained the Ice Silk Armor and the Golden Light Sword's secret technique, Zhuowen's life was undoubtedly another layer of protection. After Zhuowen finished checking the Qiankuan bag, Lin Xuanzhong had already led the 3 Lin sisters to Zhuowen's side. Looking at Huang Zong's glaring eyes in the deep pit, the 4 of them could not help but tremble violently. Therefore, they had seen from afar that Huang Zong was indeed killed by Zhuowen. However, when they came closer and saw Huang Zhong's corpse, the four of them were still shocked. After all, a half-step earthly king stage practitioner had fallen in front of them. This in itself was enough to make one tremble. At the same time, Lin Xuanzhong and the other three looked at Zhuowen with reverence. After all, to be able to kill a half-step earthly king stage practitioner by himself, one could see how powerful Zhuowen was. Thank you, little brother Zhuowen, for your help this time. If it weren't for you, the few of us would really have been annihilated by the Huang family. Lin Xuanzhong walked to Zhuowen's side and thanked him in an extremely courteous manner. Lin Xuanzhong was so polite because of the powerful strength Zhuowen had displayed. Furthermore, Zhuowen was still so young. Lin Xuanzhong knew that Zhuowen's potential was not inferior to their Lin family's strongest genius. Zhuowen waved his hand and said with a smile, I didn't mean to, there's no need to thank me. Zhuowen, you don't have to be humble. You saved the four of us this time, so we will naturally remember this kindness. Lin Xuanzhong said solemnly. After he finished speaking, Lin Xuanzhong took out a golden token from his qiankuan bag and handed it to Zhuowen with a solemn expression. He said, My life was saved by you, so you are my benefactor. This token is called the teleportation token. Although it is only a middle-rank spiritual treasure, its effect is very special. It allows you to teleport to any place within 1,000 miles. However, this teleportation can only be used once a day. When Lin Xuanzhong took out the token, the three sisters of the Lin family were shocked. Among them, Lin Xiaoyu frowned and said, Third uncle, this token is your. However, before Lin Xiaoyu could finish her sentence, she was interrupted by Lin Xuanzhong. He said indifferently, My life was saved by little brother Zhuowen. Is this thing not enough to repay my life? Since Lin Xuanzhong had said so, the three sisters of the Lin family did not say anything. They only looked at Zhuowen enviously as he took the teleportation token. Clearly, this token was not ordinary. Zhuowen naturally saw their expressions. Moreover, from the solemn expression on Lin Xuanzhong's face, he knew that this token was definitely something very important to Lin Xuanzhong. Zhuowen also had a good impression of Lin Xuanzhong's dedication and loyalty. Although he wanted to refuse, Lin Xuanzhong was very stubborn and insisted that Zhuowen accept the teleportation token. Zhuowen naturally did not dare to refuse. Moreover, Zhuowen also coveted the teleportation effect of the teleportation token. After all, if he was in a life or death situation, using this thing to teleport away would be very effective. After accepting the teleportation token, Zhuowen was in a good mood. He said to Lin Xuanzhong, Since things have come to this point, I will not hide it anymore. Actually, I am Zhuowen from the Zhuo family in Rattan Armor City. I am here for the ancient cave mansion. You are indeed the genius from the Zhuo family in Rattan Armor City. When we first met you, we saw that you were only at the Yin Void realm and thought that you were just someone with the same name. I did not expect you to really be the Zhuowen who has been the talk of Rattan Armor City recently, Lin Meiyu suddenly said. Zhuowen nodded slightly and admitted his identity. At the same time, he looked at Lin Xuanzhong and asked seriously, Senior, do you recognize the blood seal on my forehead? Lin Xuanzhong looked at Zhuowen's forehead and sighed, You have indeed been hit by Huang Zhong's blood seal. Blood seal? What exactly is this thing? Zhuowen asked in confusion. The blood constriction seal is actually a rather insidious secret technique. This secret technique requires the caster to use his life's essence blood and cultivation to congeal this blood constriction seal, and then use it on the enemy as a desperate measure. In other words, once the caster uses this secret skill, he will definitely die. Lin Xuanzhong said seriously. Furthermore, the blood choke seal will stick to the forehead of the victim. This kind of seal is quite strange. It will continuously absorb the blood essence energy of the victim's body. After 49 days, the victim's blood essence will be sucked dry and they will die. When Zhuowen heard this, his face suddenly became very ugly. He frowned slightly and said, Since Senior knows about the blood seal, does Senior know how to remove it? The blood seal is a secret skill of the Huang family. It is very insidious. And the only way to remove this blood seal is to consume the blood chi nether grass, which can completely erase the blood seal. Moreover, the blood chi nether grass can also help you transform the essence of the blood seal into your body, which can help you break through your cultivation. When Lin Xuanzhong said this, he smiled bitterly and said, "To be honest, the blood chi nether grass is an extremely rare medicinal ingredient among the 5th grade elixirs. Therefore, it is as difficult as ascending to heaven to find this elixir." However, according to this old man's guess, the elixir garden in the ancient cave is still intact. I think that there should be this blood chi nether grass in the ancient cave. When he heard this, Zhuowen's gaze turned cold. He finally knew how difficult it was to deal with the blood seal. If he did not remove it, Zhuowen would die in 49 days. It seems that we must go to the ancient cave. Senior, your goal this time is also the ancient cave. Why don't we go to the heaven fiend Dark Eye together? Since there was a solution in the ancient cave, Zhuowen did not have much worry in his heart. Instead, he cupped his hands and invited Lin Xuanzhong and the other 3. However, what made Zhuowen surprised was that Lin Xuanzhong waved his hand and said, "We will not go. This time, I am seriously injured and my strength is less than 10%. If I enter the ancient cave now, I am afraid that I will die. Moreover, my duty this time is to protect Meiyu and the other 2 sisters. Since I have not recovered from my injuries, I will not be able to protect the 3 of them. Since that is the case, we will part ways here. Then, the 4 of you, take care." Zhuowen did not hesitate. He cupped his hands and headed towards the depths of the forest. "Little brother, take care too. The ancient cave is filled with danger. Be careful. Also, if you come to the province capital one day, you must come to our Lin family as a guest. This old man will definitely treat you well." Looking at Zhuowen's departing figure, Lin Xuanzhong shouted loudly. The young man in the distance waved his hand and agreed. Chapter 205. 3 Marquises. Ever since he had parted ways with Lin Xuanzhong and the other 3, Zhuowen had been rushing towards the heaven fiend Dark Eye. With his familiarity with the Annihilation Forest, Zhuowen finally arrived at the open space where the heaven fiend Dark Eye was located after a day. But when Zhuowen reached the heaven fiend Dark Eye, he was awed by the fiery atmosphere here. The open space in front of Tian Sha-Ming was thousands of miles wide. It could be said to be extremely spacious. However, such a spacious open space was filled with tents. Around the tents were endless figures. It looked like countless locusts had passed through. As he gazed at the densely packed crowd, Zhuowen involuntarily smacked his lips. Looks like the attraction of the ancient cave dwelling was truly great. It had actually attracted so many factions. Zhuowen saw many local factions within Vine Armor City, but he also saw many factions that he did not recognize. Evidently, these factions had hurried over from the province capital. Zhuowen's arrival didn't attract too much attention. After all, a lone ranger like Zhuowen naturally wouldn't receive the attention of the other factions. In their opinion, lone rangers wouldn't amount to much. However, in a tent not far away from Zhuowen, a dark and cold gaze stared straight at Zhuowen, who had appeared on the empty ground. Deep within that gaze, there was a deep killing intent. The owner of this cold gaze was a middle-aged man with a gloomy expression. If Zhuowen saw this person, he would probably recognize him as the sect master of the Yin-sifting sect, Yingshuelua, whom he had met in the last slot battle. Yingshuelua's tent was quite remote. At this time, dozens of people had already gathered there. A white-haired old man in his 70s came to Yingshuelua's side. Following the latter's line of sight, he also saw Zhuowen, who had just arrived. The old man said in a low voice, "Sect Master, is this kid the Zhuowen who helped the City Lord Mansion win the quota?" "Yes. I did not expect that this brat would be so bold as to barge into the ancient cave mansion alone. However, this is also good. This brat has destroyed my children. I will make him pay the price. Ingshuelua's face darkened as he said coldly. Sect master. Why don't we get rid of this brat now? The white-haired old man asked in a low voice. The coldness in his eyes intensified. There are too many people here. It's not easy to deal with him. Moreover, this brat can fight with a human king realm warrior with the art of the world realm. He must have many secrets. Once we enter the ancient cave mansion, we'll have plenty of chances. At that time, I'll take away this brat's life and all his secrets, Ingshuelua said with a cold snort. At the same time, he began to look. He Shuelua. While Shuelua Shue was Shue Shuelua was the sect master. Is Luan. Is World Studio. From these conversations, Zhuowen learned a lot about the ancient cave mansion. It turned out that the ancient cave mansion was hidden in the deepest part of the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye. In the depths of the endless cold air, there was a layer of restriction set up by an ancient expert. Even though this layer of restriction was much weaker than before due to the passage of time, it still wasn't something that an ordinary cultivator could break through. Only an ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator possessed the strength to break through such a restriction by themselves. However, Mu Qin Marquis had made it clear that warriors of the ultimate King Realm were not allowed to intervene. Therefore, several forces in the prefecture sent warriors at the peak of the Heavenly King Realm to join forces to break the restriction of the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye. Lingjiu, who came with the 9th Commandery Princess last time, was the main force in breaking the restriction. The only forces in the prefecture that could send warriors at the peak of the Heavenly King Realm were the 3 marquises of the prefecture, the Imperial Sword Sect, and the Jade Lady Star Court. As Zhuowen listened to the discussions of the surrounding warriors, time gradually flowed by. As Zhuowen listened to the discussions, he pondered on how he should search for the blood chi nether grass after entering the ancient cave. After all, the blood seal on his forehead was the most important problem for Zhuowen to solve. When the scorching sun in the sky rose to its highest point, a rumbling sound suddenly resounded from the distant horizon. The moment the sound of breaking air rang out, the yuan power of the world suddenly surged and showed signs of boiling. Zhuowen looked up at the sky. In the horizon, a huge ship with a dragon's head was like a mountain. It was like a meteor breaking through the sky. Wherever it passed, there was a deafening sound of explosion. Is that the Qinglong? Zhuowen narrowed his eyes and stared at the dragon's head ship that was speeding towards him from the horizon. He knew that Lu Yuanhua and the other members of the House of Marquis Qin were all on this high-grade spiritual treasure ship. Zhuowen naturally would not forget the humiliation that Lu Yuanhua had brought to the Zhuo family in Rattan Armor City. When the Qinglong vehicle cut through the void and appeared in the sky, everyone on the empty ground sensed its presence. Immediately, numerous astonished gazes were cast over. Whoosh! Under the curious gazes of the crowd, the Qinglong broke through the air at an extremely fast speed. When the Qinglong's huge body finally appeared in the sky above everyone was shocked by the size of the ship. In front of the huge Qinglong, all of the practitioners on the open ground were as tiny as ants. When the Qinglong came to a complete stop in the air above the open ground, everyone's eyes gathered on the dragon's head. There, a young man in purple robes stood firmly with his hands behind his back. A cool breeze blew over, causing his long hair to flutter. He appeared free and easy without losing any of his luxurious aura. Many people were impressed by his aura. On the dragon's head, the purple-robed man slightly lowered his head. His calm eyes looked down at the various factions on the open ground. After which, he withdrew his gaze. There was nothing worth lingering over there. The members of the House of Marquis Qin have arrived. That is the leader of the House of Marquis Qin this time, Mu Qin Marquis' third son, Lu Yuanhua. I heard that he has reached the perfect earthly king stage at such a young age. As they looked at the purple-robed man on the dragon's head, everyone on the open ground burst into an uproar. Many people's eyes were filled with excitement. Lu Yuanhua. Zhuowen stared straight at the purple-robed man on the dragon's head. He could see the indifference in Lu Yuanhua's eyes towards everyone below. Or rather, it was a kind of disregard. Of course, with Lu Yuanhua's strength, he indeed had the qualifications to do so. A practitioner who could reach the perfect earthly king stage at such a young age was one of the few existences in the entire Muqin county. Even though Zhuowen was rather unhappy with Lu Yuanhua, he still acknowledged the latter's strength in his heart. After all, Zhuowen had exchanged blows with the former back in Rattan Armor City. The result naturally made Zhuowen feel somewhat dejected. Even though Zhuowen had created a true ice fire, it was only able to injure Lu Yuanhua's palm. Moreover, that was already Zhuowen's strongest move. Brat, looks like you are unwilling to accept this. However, you are still young. Moreover, the strength of your ice fire can at the very most cause great harm to a human king stage practitioner. It is likely that it will be a little beyond your ability to deal with an earthly king stage practitioner. In that case, there is no need to even mention the even more powerful heavenly king stage practitioner. Xiao He seemed to have sensed the dejection in Zhuowen's heart as she suddenly opened her mouth to speak. I know that I will one day defeat Lu Yuanhua and snatch the gravity tower that our clan has lost from his hands. Moreover, the strength of the ice flame holy symbol also needs to be raised. Looks like I need to go and find an even higher grade ice and fire energy. Currently, the Nirvana Demon Flame and the Heaven Terminus Cold Chi are unable to provide much help. Zhuowen inhaled a deep breath of air and said softly. Actually, at the end of the day, it is still because your ice fire holy symbol is incomplete. If it was a complete ice fire holy symbol, the ice fire energy within it could continuously evolve into a higher grade energy by swallowing other energy. It would not be like now where you still need to go and find ice fire energy. Xiao He's voice was a little helpless as she spoke. Lu Yuanhua, you have come so early. A thunder-like loud laughter suddenly rumbled across the sky just as everyone was shocked by the Chenglong. After which, everyone saw a golden light break through the sky and arrive. A powerful aura also spread across the sky. The golden light broke through the sky and the natural yuan power shook. Finally, the golden light was suspended in the sky and transformed into an enormous golden wan bird. A group of human figures stood on the wan bird. At the leader of this group of human figures was a young man with a strong body. Both of his arms were bare, and he was carrying an enormous long blade on his back. His body was straight, appearing just like a long spear that was standing in the sky. Su Mu of the Marquis of Baichuan's mansion. Zhuowen muttered as he narrowed his eyes and stared at the arrogant young man on the wan bird. Zhuowen was also familiar with Su Mu. Back in Rattan Armor City, Su Mu was on Lu Yuanhua's Chenglong. Zhuowen did not expect Su Mu to have a mount after not seeing him for a few days. Looking at the wan bird under Su Mu's feet, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. This was because he realized that the wan bird was actually a level 3 yuan beast. In other words, this yuan beast alone was not weaker than an ordinary human king realm warrior. Su Mu, aren't you also quite early? I just arrived and you followed behind, Lu Yuanhua said as he calmly glanced at Su Mu with his hands behind his back. Oh. The house of Marquis Qin and the Marquis of Baichuan's mansion have both arrived. Sigh, why are you all so early? A somewhat mocking voice suddenly came from afar. Then, a black figure suddenly flew over from afar and arrived at the open space in an instant. The people below also looked over and saw a giant python with a pair of wings on its back that was dozens of feet long. It was flapping its wings as it slowly stopped in the air. An extremely powerful aura swept out from the giant python's body. There was also a group of people on the giant python. On the head of the giant python, a blue-robed man stood with a smile. The man's face was devilishly handsome. In terms of appearance, he was much prettier than some young girls. He was waving a feather fan in his hands slowly, exuding a noble elegance. That is the crown prince of the Marquis of Yongxing's mansion, Qin Hui. He is also a first-class genius. Chapter 206. Break the seal. The gathering of the three most powerful factions in the province immediately caused an uproar on the empty ground. Everyone's eyes were fiery as they stared at the three great factions in the sky. Being able to see powerful factions like the three marquises of the province in Rotten Armor City was already an eye-opener for some of the factions. Whoosh! Not long after the three marquises' forces had gathered, two resplendent beams of light streaked across the sky, shooting straight towards the heaven-fiend dark eye like meteors. Looks like the Imperial Sword faction and Jade Lady Star Court are also here. On the dragon's head, Lu Yuanhua clasped his hands behind his back as a light flashed across his eyes. Just as LV Yuanhua's voice faded, two streaks of light instantly appeared in the sky. Two more groups appeared on the empty ground. One of the groups was filled with people wearing long black robes. Moreover, each of them carried a long sword on their back. What was even more bizarre was that each person in this group was standing on a long sword and flying through the air. The Imperial Sword faction. Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he stared at the group in the sky and spoke with envy. The Imperial Sword sect, as its name implied, was famous for its Imperial Sword technique. It was said that the experts of the Imperial Sword sect could single-handedly control a long sword to take the head of a general in an army of 10,000. The other team was quite pleasing to the eye. Because the disciples of the Jade Lady Astral Court were all female, the team they sent this time was made up of young and beautiful girls. The leader of the Jade Lady Astral Court this time was a woman with a veil covering her face. She wore a light blue dress and had a graceful figure. The leader of the ruling sword school was a young man in his 20s. He had sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes, and he was handsome. His tall and straight body stepped on the sword like a peerless sword. Brother Lu, Brother Su, Brother Qin, long time no see. The three of you have come quite early. The man with the sword cupped his hands and said with a smile. I didn't expect that the one who came this time would be Brother Guang Mo. I thought that your Imperial Sword Gate would send Brother Zhu Qi. Lu Yuanhua rubbed his palms together as he spoke with a faint smile. Eldest senior brother is at a critical juncture of his seclusion, so he naturally can't make it. Although my strength is slightly inferior, with this sword, it should be more than enough to explore the ancient cave. The man with the sword was called Guang Mo, and he was the second disciple of the Imperial Sword School. His strength was second only to the Imperial Sword School's eldest disciple, Zhu Qi, and he was already at the mastery of the Earth King realm. Guang Mo faintly smiled as he retrieved a green longsword from his Qiankuan bag. The moment the sword appeared, an extremely powerful aura instantly spread out, enveloping the entire space within it. Following which, a clear and melodious sword cry instantly spread out. Awoo! The shadow of a giant dragon that was hundreds of feet long condensed in the void behind Guang Mo with a sword cry. Green separation sword. I did not expect that Brother Zhu Qi would even hand over this sword to you. Looks like your Imperial Sword Gate is also unwilling to be outdone in the fight for the ancient cave mansion this time around? When Lu Yuanhua saw the green longsword in Guang Mo's hand, his expression changed slightly as he said. However, what really surprised me is that the Jade Lady Star Court actually sent Miss Qing Lian over. With Miss Qing Lian's strength, this ancient cave mansion is bound to be won. Lu Yuanhua smiled as he looked at the Jade Lady Star Court's side. His gaze was filled with dread as he spoke. Young Master Lu, you think too highly of Qing Lian. You are all the top young warriors in Muqin County. Even Qing Lian would find it difficult to gain anything this time around. A light voice slowly resounded from the Jade Lady Star Court's team. This voice was extremely beautiful, as if it had a special magical power, causing many people on the empty space to reveal a dazed and intoxicated look. What a powerful woman! Zhuo Wen's mind had similarly sunk into a momentary daze because of this voice. However, he quickly regained his senses. Immediately, a shocked expression surged into his eyes. His gaze hardened as he stared at the graceful lady in the sky. His expression was filled with intense fear. Boy! This woman is very strong, much stronger than Lu Yuanhua. It seems that the ancient cave mansion this time is really a gathering of experts. Xiao Hei's voice rang out at this time. Nodding slightly, Zhuowen gazed at the graceful figure in the sky. He knew that this woman's strength had most likely reached the heavenly king realm. Otherwise, it would be impossible for this casual voice to cause Zhuowen to fall into a momentary daze. Miss Qing Lian is too modest. If we are talking about the real top person, I'm afraid only Miss Qing Lian is the one. The graceful Qin Hui waved his feather fan and spoke rather elegantly. However, his gaze was filled with passion as he looked at Qing Lian. After all, as long as one was a man, they would be tempted by such a beautiful woman. Qing Lian smiled sweetly. Her eyes, which were as bright as stars, turned towards Lv Yuanhua. She softly said, "Since everyone is here, let's begin to break the seal." All right. Lu Yuanhua's originally cold face softened as he nodded his head. His gaze towards Qing Lian was also filled with passion. After all, regardless of whether it was her graceful temperament or her graceful figure, they could be said to be perfect. Even Lu Yuanhua was tempted by such a perfect woman. Hearing Lu Yuanhua's words, the other three nodded their heads. Since we have started, let's start quickly. Su Mu was the fastest to act. He suddenly pulled out the large blade on his back and pushed his right hand forward. The large blade trembled violently as a bright golden light condensed on the blade. Finally, it transformed into a huge golden blade shadow and violently shot out. Boom! Boom! As the blade shadow shot out, it brought about a series of explosions along the way. Its aura was astonishing. Whoosh! The instant Su Mu made his move, Qin Hui, who was standing on top of the giant python, gently waved the feather fan in his hand with a smile. It directly formed a wave in the air. Within the wave, surging yuan power filled the air. Go! Qin Hui waved the feather fan in his right hand. The monstrous wave was like a giant wave that crossed the sky. Buzz! Guang Yimou stomped his foot and the giant sword under his feet rapidly rotated. Finally, it transformed into a sword light that pierced through the air and directly shot out. Buzz! Lu Yuanhua slightly raised his head. His right hand gently pinched the air as a huge yuan power vortex appeared behind him. In the blink of an eye, the yuan power vortex transformed into a giant dragon that pierced through the sky and whizzed out. Compared to Lu Yuanhua and the other three's attack, Qing Lian's attack was rather calm. She waved her hand and the endless starlight under her feet split into specks of starlight that silently shot towards the heaven fiend Dark Eye. When the five of them made their move, the yuan power in the area began to violently boil. Many people on the open ground were amazed. To be able to use yuan power to such an extent, it was likely that only those who had stepped into the Earth King stage and above could do so. An Earth King stage warrior is indeed incomparable to a human King stage warrior. They are actually able to use yuan power to such an extent. Zhuowen took a deep breath. He knew that an Earth King stage warrior was able to use the yuan power of heaven and earth. Every move of theirs contained great power. It was no wonder that when Zhuowen used the ice flame, it only caused some superficial wounds on Lu Yuanhua. Zhuowen knew that if Lu Yuanhua had used his full strength, Zhuowen would have died. Or perhaps, he would have asked Xiao Hei for help and exposed Xiao Hei's existence. While Zhuowen's eyes flickered, the mighty attack in the sky had already heavily bombarded the heaven fiend Dark Eye under the numerous gazes of the crowd. As the attack neared, a trace of distortion appeared in the sky. It was as if the space itself could not withstand the pressure of the attack. Bang 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 bang. A destructive explosion immediately appeared in the sky above the heaven fiend Dark Eye. Soon after, a dazzling brilliance, like the scorching sun, instantly enveloped the entire area. Soon after, everyone was shocked to find that the huge eyeball above the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye, which was formed by the Heaven Fiend Cold Chi, had begun to tremble violently. As time passed, the frequency of the trembling became faster and faster, and finally reached a peak. Boom boom. An earth-shattering sound rang out in an instant. Following which, the huge eyeball directly collapsed. The endless cold chi contained within the eyeball poured out in torrents, gushing towards the sky like a volcanic eruption. As the cold chi continued to flow out of the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye, the temperature of the empty ground rapidly fell at a speed visible to the naked eye. A thick layer of ice actually formed on the soft ground in the blink of an eye. Some of the weaker warriors even started to shiver under the invasion of this sinister cold. Chi. As the cold chi continued to flow out, a black whirlpool-like hole slowly appeared at the gap of the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye. The hole was pitch black as far as the eye could see. Is this the entrance to the ancient cave? Qing Lian's pretty eyes flickered as she asked in a strange manner. Father has already guessed that this Heaven Fiend Dark Eye is the restrictive strength of the ancient cave. As long as the Heaven Fiend Dark Eye is broken, the entrance to the ancient cave will appear. It is likely that this should be the entrance to the ancient cave. Lu Yuanhua's eyes contained a trace of anticipation as he looked at the black whirlpool in front of him and said. The 5 people in the sky nodded slightly. They led the groups behind them and transformed into 5 rays of light that rushed into the black whirlpool. In the blink of an eye, they disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. The Heaven Fiend Dark Eye has been broken. The entrance to the ancient cave has also appeared. Quickly charge. Everyone on the empty ground rejoiced when they saw the 5 groups in the sky disappear into the black whirlpool. Immediately, Yuan power whizzed out. Numerous figures gathered their strength and swiftly rushed towards the black whirlpool. For a time, the sky was filled with rushing sounds. The crowd was like a swarm of locusts as they rushed towards the entrance. Has the seal finally been broken? Looks like we should also set off. Looking at the black whirlpool in the sky, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with rich anticipation. He wanted to see just what kind of treasure was in the ancient cave that could actually attract so many factions from the province. When he thought of this, Zhuowen's feet suddenly stomped. His entire body transformed into a ray of light and entered the black whirlpool in the blink of an eye. Chapter 207. Stone Gate. This was an empty space that stretched as far as the eye could see. The surroundings were dusky and gloomy, as if it was a gloomy day. In front of this dusky space, a stone gate that was several hundred meters tall stood between the heavens and the earth. The weathered surface of the stone was slightly yellowed, revealing the passage of time and the vicissitudes of ancient times. In front of this grand stone gate, everyone was as small and insignificant as ants. The stone gate that had stood for 10,000 years was like a giant in its twilight years, silently overlooking the countless figures below. On the other side of the stone gate, there was a palace that looked like an endless mountain range, quietly standing in the distance. At this moment, countless figures had already gathered in front of the stone gate. However, the strange thing was that these figures all stopped in front of the stone gate, and not a single one of them took a step forward. Zhuowen even saw Lu Yuanhua, Qing Lian, and the other 4 young experts at the front of the crowd. After Lu Yuanhua said a few words to the group behind him, he took a step forward and shot towards the stone gate like an arrow that had been released from a bow. Clang! The moment Lu Yuanhua entered the stone gate, a golden light suddenly exploded in front of the stone gate. Then, a golden barrier actually blocked in front of Lu Yuanhua. Humph! Lu Yuanhua coldly snorted. He gently clenched his fist, and a huge golden palm suddenly pressed down, instantly shattering the golden barrier. His figure had already entered the stone gate in an instant. Looking at Lu Yuanhua's departing figure, Zhuowen's eyes narrowed slightly as he muttered in a low voice, "There's something strange about this stone gate?" Heh. This stone gate should be a protective array set up by the experts of this cave mansion. It was a kind of array to protect the cave mansion. Once an outsider intruded, it would probably trigger the array inside the stone gate, which would then create a barrier to stop the intruder. In ancient times, this kind of great defensive array was extremely powerful. Even an ultimate Emperor realm expert wouldn't be able to break it so easily. Xiao Hei suddenly appeared on Zhuowen's shoulder. She rubbed her chin with her paws and chuckled. Even an ultimate Emperor realm cultivator can't break through it. Just now, Lu Yuanhua easily broke through the golden barrier. Zhuowen was startled and asked in astonishment. This cave dwelling has existed for at least 10,000 years. Even the Great Protective Formation could not withstand the erosion of time. Therefore, its power has greatly weakened compared to before. According to my estimation, anyone who is at the Human King stage or above should be able to easily enter this Great Protective Formation. Xiao Hei rolled her eyes at Zhuowen and said indifferently. On the other side of the stone door, after Lu Yuanhua successfully entered, Su Mu, Qin Hui, Clear Lotus, and Guang Mo, these 4 young masters, also easily entered the stone door. As the 5 of them easily entered, some warriors who were at the Human King stage or above followed. They directly broke through with their tyrannical strength. Among them, the 9th Commandery Princess, Lingjiu, and Su Chang, whom Zhuowen knew, were also among them. As for the warriors who were below the Human King stage, they stayed where they were and waited for orders. They had no intention of entering the stone door. Swoosh! 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 As the experts of the 5 forces entered, the other forces that had already gathered outside the stone door began to stir. Then, countless figures rushed into the stone door like locusts. Bang! Bang! However, among so many people, there were only a few who had reached the Human King realm. Therefore, only a few of these people who had rushed through the stone door relied on their own strength to forcefully resist the obstruction of the stone door and break through. Most of the people were like withered leaves as they suddenly shot backwards. Of course, most of the warriors who flew back were below the Human King stage. Damn it! I didn't expect the ancient cavern mansion to have such a stone door. Damn it! Damn it! With this stone door, we who are not strong enough have no chance at all. What bad luck! It seems that this trip was in vain. As more and more warriors flew out, the outside of the stone door was filled with curses. Countless warriors began to curse. They knew that if they could not enter the stone door, it meant that they were not fated to obtain the treasures in the ancient cave mansion. I didn't expect to encounter such a difficulty as soon as I entered the ancient cavern mansion. However, I can give it a try. If I don't rely on the power of the holy symbol of ice and fire, can I directly break through the obstruction of this stone door with just my martial strength? Zhuowen muttered in a low voice. Then, he turned into a flowing light and rushed toward the stone door. After the failure just now, the outside of the stone door was basically filled with warriors with low strength. When a figure suddenly tried to break through the stone door, it immediately attracted the attention of these warriors. However, when these cultivators saw Zhuowen's handsome face and the corporeal yang aura he was emitting, they immediately revealed gloating smiles. Is this guy an idiot? He only has the strength of the corporeal yang stage 8 and dares to break through the stone door. What an overconfident kid. I am already at the peak of the corporeal yang stage, but even I can't break through. How can this kid with such a weak cultivation enter? Hee hee. When this kid is repelled by the power of the stone door later, let's see how he will embarrass himself. Seeing Zhuowen fly toward the stone door like a moth to a flame, the warriors outside the stone door suddenly laughed mockingly. Everyone looked at Zhuowen's back with ridicule. They were looking forward to seeing the expression of this young man when he was knocked back by the power of the stone door. Violent blood beast body, second sky of rampage. A low roar suddenly came from Zhuowen's throat. Then all the muscles in his body suddenly swelled. Countless bloodlines spread across his body, making him look exceptionally ferocious. The moment Zhuowen approached the stone door, he twisted his waist and endless yuan power suddenly burst out from his body. Then his 5 fingers clenched into fists. His fists drew a strange trajectory in the air and then fiercely slammed into the stone door. Primeval Chaos Dragon Roar Fist, 10 dragons soaring to the sky. The moment Zhuo Wen's fist landed on the stone door, a resonant dragon's roar immediately erupted from Zhuo Wen's body. Afterwards, 10 huge dragon phantoms condensed behind Zhuo Wen's frail body. Boom! Following the momentum of Zhuo Wen's fist, the 10 phantoms of giant dragons fiercely poured into the golden barrier of the stone door. Immediately after, a violent tremor was immediately transmitted from the stone door. The numerous cultivators who were still wantonly laughing outside the stone door suddenly staggered under this tremor, unable to stand steadily. It can't be. Can this kid really break the barrier of the stone door? The crowd immediately quietened down when they sensed the vibration that was transmitted over. The smiles on everyone's faces instantly froze. Instead, they were startled as they stared at the enormous stone door that was trembling repeatedly under Zhuo Wen's fist. Bang! On the stone door, Zhuo Wen's eyes narrowed. His pupils couldn't help but constrict because he felt an extremely strong resistance coming from the stone door, constantly preventing him from entering. When this resistance reached its peak, Zhuo Wen let out a muffled groan and couldn't help but retreat over a dozen meters, staring at the figure of the youth who retreated. Everyone couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. When the stone door trembled just now, they almost thought that this youth whose strength was only at the corporeal yang stage could really enter the stone door. Deliberately mystifying kid. If you don't have the ability, don't show off. Don't embarrass yourself. As expected of a brat who stinks of milk. So many warriors have already tried. Warriors below the human king realm can't pass through the stone door. I advise you to give up as soon as possible. After a brief moment of silence, disdainful mocking laughter sounded from outside the stone door again. Letting out a sigh, Zhuo Wen ignored the mocking laughter behind him. Instead, he stared at the stone door with narrowed eyes and said slowly, "Looks like this move is useless? Then let's try this move." As he spoke, Zhuo Wen stomped his foot on the ground again. His body rushed towards the stone door again. At this moment, his hands were glowing with a blazing golden light. Then, an even louder dragon's roar suddenly rose. It was as if countless giant dragons had awoken from their slumber. Is there something wrong with this kid's brain? As they watched Zhuo Wen once again charge towards the stone door, the laughter of the crowd became even louder. Their words also became even more unrestrained. From their point of view, the current Zhuo Wen was just like a monkey performing a circus act. Primeval Chaos Dragon Roar Fist, 100 dragons fighting the heavens. A roar came from Zhuo Wen's throat. His fist glowed with a blazing golden light. He rushed towards the stone door with an indomitable will. Countless giant dragon phantoms in the depths of the void suddenly gathered in Zhuo Wen's fist at this moment. The fist radiance became even more blazing. In the end, Zhuo Wen's entire body turned into a giant dragon and slammed into the stone door. Boom! An even more violent tremor suddenly occurred within 100 miles of the stone door. Following that, ferocious cracks appeared on the hard ground, and endless astral winds swept out between the fist and the stone door. Crack! A crisp sound slowly rang out. In the open space that was full of laughter, it seemed insignificant. However, it was this insignificant crisp sound that caused some of the noisy laughter in the open space to come to an abrupt end. Then, everyone's gazes looked at the stone door in front of them in disbelief. On the surface of the golden barrier on the stone door, traces of cracks began to appear. These cracks were like a spider web that spread in all directions. Finally, under everyone's shocked gazes, it completely collapsed. Swoosh! Once the barrier of the stone door was broken, Zhuo Wen turned into a shadow and rushed into the stone door. With a few leaps, he disappeared from everyone's sight. The moment Zhuo Wen entered the stone door, a layer of golden barrier condensed once again. Chapter 208. Emperor Yuan Pil. The gloomy grayness shrouded the entire space, causing the aura of the ancient cave to appear rather strange. Swoosh! A figure cut through the void and arrived at a square in an instant. The square was made of snow-white marble, and each piece was dozens of feet in size. The entire square was tens of thousands of feet wide, and the figures on the square were as small as ants. In front of the square was a huge, majestic palace. Rays of dazzling brilliance spread out from the front. It was a luxurious scene filled with jewels and treasures. The palace in front should be the palace of the owner of the cave. The treasures should be hidden in the palace. A Xiaohei dog leisurely sat on Zhuowen's shoulder and said with a mischievous smile. It's really impressive. Just the palace alone has such a huge building. The owner of this ancient cave really knows how to enjoy himself. Zhuowen smacked his lips and said enviously. Compared to the outside world, the number of people here was much less. Zhuowen occasionally raised his head and could only see a few sparse black figures. Obviously, the number of warriors who could break through the stone door was still very small. Of course, this small number was relative. According to Zhuowen's estimation, even if it was just the human king realm warriors, the number could reach hundreds. However, compared to the tens of thousands of warriors gathered outside the stone door, this number was indeed very small. After passing through the square, there was a rather spacious corridor. At the end of the corridor, there were dozens of passages, and the other end of these passages was the palace in the distance, which was filled with treasures. Currently, many people had scattered and entered the passages in a hurry. Zhuowen, take the leftmost passage. If this dragon lord's senses are not wrong, there should be some good stuff in this passage. Just as Zhuowen was hesitating about which passage to take, Xiaohei on his shoulder suddenly said. Hearing this, Zhuowen was slightly startled. However, he did not ask too much. Instead, he took a light step and rushed towards the leftmost passage. Zhuowen also knew that Xiaohei's senses were very strong. Therefore, when he heard Xiaohei's words, he did not hold back. The passage was quite spacious, and both sides were filled with stone rooms. However, most of the doors of the stone rooms were broken, and some warriors with greedy faces were searching in the stone rooms. Hey! These stone rooms are basically empty. If there is really something, it will not be placed in such a conspicuous place. Kid, there's no need to pay attention to these fellows. Let's continue forward. Xiaohei sneered and gloated. Nodding his head slightly, Zhuowen used his full speed and quickly moved forward in the passage. Along the way, he met many warriors searching in the stone rooms on both sides of the passage. As he went deeper into the passage, Zhuowen saw fewer and fewer warriors. Evidently, most of the warriors had yet to reach this place. This kind of running lasted for 15 minutes, before Zhuowen's eyes flashed and he stopped. His gaze was fixed on a seemingly ordinary stone room in front of him. He could feel a strange fluctuation from within. There must be something good inside. This kind of fluctuation was not present in the stone rooms in front of him. Immediately, Zhuowen's heart jumped and he quickly rushed forward. However, just as his hand touched the stone door, he was bounced back by a strong energy fluctuation. The energy protection of this stone door is quite strange. There is actually a mechanism lock behind the door. Kid, you can use your mental energy to invade it. If you want to forcefully destroy it, I'm afraid that it will take too much time. Zhuowen nodded his head. With a flick of his mind, the mental energy in his Naiwan palace gushed out. Strands of mental energy wrapped around the stone door and quickly fused into it. A moment later, the stone door suddenly trembled. Then, under Zhuowen's surprised gaze, it slowly opened with a rumble. After the stone door opened, Zhuowen took a step forward. Then, an intense light shot into his eyes, causing him to squint his eyes. At this moment, he discovered that the interior of the stone room was actually filled with a type of cold jade. A faint cold aura lingered within. The decoration of the stone room was rather simple, but it was clean and tidy. After sweeping a glance at the stone room, Zhuowen's gaze was immediately attracted by the many round pills on the ground in the middle of the room. These pills were the size of a baby's fist and were as smooth as jade. Evidently, they were of excellent quality. Moreover, waves of astonishing yuan power undulations were being emitted from these pills. This is the Emperor Pill. The Emperor Pill was a type of pill that could only be refined by an ultimate Emperor stage practitioner by extracting the yuan power of heaven and earth. It contained extremely pure and surging yuan power. Practitioners who used this pill to cultivate would at least be able to achieve half the results with twice the effort. According to Zhuowen's estimation, a single Emperor Pill was worth at least 1,000,000 yuan. Moreover, it was the type that had a price but no supply. The Zhuo family's annual profit was also around this amount. In other words, even if the Zhuo family went bankrupt, they would only be able to purchase a single Emperor Pill. However, these pills that were refined at such a price were currently casually piled up on the ground of the stone room. The number of pills had already reached tens of thousands. If they were converted into yuan coins, it would probably reach several billion yuan coins. This kind of wealth could be said to be comparable to the wealth of a city. It was likely that the combined value of all the factions in Rotten Armor City could not compare to the total value of these Emperor Pills in this stone room. In the face of such an enormous wealth, even Zhuowen could not help but be stunned for a long time. This lasted for a few seconds before Zhuowen regained his senses. Without saying anything else, he opened his Qiankuan bag. Mental energy spread out and the Emperor Pills that filled the stone room flew up. Under Zhuowen's fiery gaze, they continuously flew into his Qiankuan bag. Fortunately, the Qiankuan bag that Zhuowen used was a high-grade Qiankuan bag from Ba Shui. The space inside was extremely large. Therefore, Zhuowen was not worried that he would not be able to stuff so many Emperor Pills into his bag. The value of such a large number of Emperor Pills was comparable to a high-grade soul treasure. Zhuowen did not expect to obtain such a bountiful harvest after just entering the ancient cave. Zhuowen's eyes were fiery red. He was extremely focused as he rapidly collected the Emperor Pills that filled the ground. Xiaohei, who was on his shoulder, also waved her right hand and another large pile of pills entered Zhuowen's Qiankuan bag. Thud thud. There were simply too many Emperor Pills in the stone room. Even though Zhuowen used both his hands and feet, he was only able to collect half of them in a few minutes. At this moment, his ears twitched as he heard the faint sound of footsteps. Upon hearing the sound of footsteps, Zhuowen's expression darkened. He abruptly turned around, only to see 4 figures standing outside the stone door. However, the 4 of them were currently dumbfounded as they stared at the Emperor Yuan Pills that were scattered all over the stone room. After a few breaths, their eyes turned scarlet red as greed gushed out from them. Then, their gazes paused on Zhuowen, who was still collecting the pills. A corporeal young stage warrior. Good boy, with such strength, you were actually able to break through the stone door and enter this place. It's a little strange. Boy, if you know what's good for you, put down the Qiankuan bag in your hand and get out of here. The 4 of them were obviously a group. They walked into the stone room and blocked all the entrances. Then, they looked at Zhuowen with a hideous smile. Under the temptation of so many Emperor Pills, even if the person standing in front of them was an Earth King realm warrior, the 4 of them would not easily give up, let alone a young man who was only at the corporeal yang stage. Humans die for wealth, and birds die for food. The 4 of them were obviously filled with greed. Zhuowen's expression did not change. The moment he heard the footsteps, he sensed that the 4 of them were all at the initial human king realm. With such strength, Zhuowen did not take them seriously. After all, he had even killed a perfect human king realm warrior. How could he be afraid of a mere initial human king realm warrior? Zhuowen calmly glanced at the 4 of them. His hands did not stop as he continued to collect the Emperor Pills on the ground. He completely ignored the 4 of them at the door. Boy, are you deaf? Looks like if I don't teach you a lesson, you won't learn your lesson. The middle-aged man standing at the front snorted coldly. He took a step forward and directly flew towards Zhuowen. Courting death? I'm afraid you're talking to the wrong person. Zhuowen calmly stared at the middle-aged man who was rushing towards him. With a thought, the mental energy in his Naiwan palace suddenly burst out. It turned into a sharp needle and instantly shot into the middle of the man's eyebrows. The middle-aged man was caught off guard. The mental energy needle instantly entered the middle of his eyebrows. Then, his body stopped in midair. At this moment, a black figure flashed out. It was Zhuowen. Zhuowen coldly glanced at the somewhat sluggish man in front of him. A trace of ruthlessness flashed across his eyes. His right hand grabbed the latter's neck and exerted a little force. With a cracking sound, the man's neck twisted in a strange manner. Bang! With a light flick of his right hand, the middle-aged man's corpse was gently thrown to the ground by Zhuowen like a piece of trash. Looking at the distorted body of the man who had already lost his breath, the other three ancient martial art practitioners who were blocking the door immediately fell into silence. Their mouths were slightly agape as they stared blankly at the corpse on the ground and the calm young man in front of them. Mental energy? You're actually an arcana master. Finally, one of them opened his mouth and looked at Zhuowen in front of him. His eyes were filled with shock. You have good eyesight. However, since you've already barged into this place, there's no need for you to leave. Accompany your companions together. Zhuowen clapped his hands. His eyes immediately turned cold as he coldly said, "Let's attack together. I don't believe that this boy can withstand the combined forces of the three of us." The man who spoke earlier narrowed his eyes and shouted loudly. As the shout rang out, the three of them knew that there was no way out. Moreover, there were so many Emperor Yuan pills in the stone room. No matter what, they did not want to give up. After all, wealth came from danger. Zhuowen smiled coldly. 8 streams of mental energy poured out from his Naiwan palace and turned into 8 thin mental energy needles. He unceremoniously shot them toward the three of them. With the support of 8 streams of vigorous mental energy, the initial human king realm warriors were no match for Zhuowen. Therefore, Zhuowen did not spend much time to finish off the remaining 3 warriors. Chapter 209. Map. The allure of the ancient cave was indeed very great. Even though the number of practitioners had been greatly reduced due to the screening of the stone door, there were still quite a number of practitioners who had truly entered the cave. The tunnel that Zhuowen was in was also extremely chaotic. Many places were filled with human figures, and from time to time, loud noises and curses could be heard. It was obvious that some people had found some good stuff. Of course, due to the large number of people, it was inevitable that many people would be envious. The final result was that when the treasures were obtained, a desperate fight would immediately erupt. Everyone would call for their companions and fight until their heads bled. After plundering over 10,000 Emperor Yuan pills, Zhuowen appeared to be rather low-key. Along the way, if there was nothing that truly required his attention, Zhuowen would definitely not seek trouble for himself. Fortunately, Xiao Hei's sensing ability was extremely useful in this kind of crisscrossing tunnel. It was able to inform the direction of the flow of people and whether there were any particularly precious items in the stone room. In this way, Zhuowen did not have to take many detours as he directly rushed towards the depths of the tunnel. Xiao Hei. We must quickly find the blood chi nether grass. I can clearly feel the blood choke seal in my body continuously extracting my essence blood energy. If we do not find it quickly, the longer this drags on, the faster my strength will decline. In the tunnel, Zhuowen's right hand gently rubbed the blood-colored seal on his forehead. His eyes were filled with deep worry. Xiao Hei glanced at the blood choke seal on Zhuowen's forehead as its expression became rather grave. It softly said, "Looks like this thing is indeed a big problem. However, the surface area of this palace is really too large. The tunnels inside are also connected in all directions. I'm afraid that it will be rather difficult to find a stock of elixir in such a complicated terrain. Upon hearing this, a trace of disappointment appeared on Zhuowen's face. However, at this moment, Xiao He, who was on his shoulder, suddenly exclaimed softly. Its black eyes suddenly stared directly at an ordinary-looking wall in front of them. What is it? Zhuowen asked curiously as he glanced at the wall in front of him. He wondered why Xiao He's reaction was so strange. This wall is a little strange. It is actually able to block this dragon lord's divine sense. Xiao He's eyes hardened slightly as he spoke in a somewhat strange manner. Oh. Even your divine sense can't penetrate this wall. A trace of surprise appeared on Zhuowen's face when he heard this. Xiao He's original form was a primordial true dragon. The range of his divine senses detection was several thousand miles. Everything was basically transparent under the detection of Xiao He's divine sense. He could see everything with a glance. This was the first time Zhuowen had seen Xiao He's divine sense fail to achieve anything. Brat. The material of this wall is fundamentally different from the walls in other places. Furthermore, it has the effect of blocking out one's divine sense. It is obvious that the owner of the cave mansion deliberately designed this wall. In other words, there must be something different behind this wall. At this point, Xiao He's eyes suddenly became bright and full of expression. His eyes narrowed as he stared intently at the wall in front of him. Upon hearing Xiao He's words, Zhuowen's heart also moved. Since the owner of the cave mansion had ingeniously designed such a strange wall in this place, there must be something good hidden behind it. After looking around and confirming that no one had noticed his strange situation, Zhuowen cautiously approached the wall in front of him. Dong dong. After gently knocking on the wall a few times, a crisp sound similar to that of metal clashing rang out, causing Zhuowen to involuntarily become nervous. It is indeed unusual. This kind of sound cannot be produced by an ordinary wall. Xiao He rubbed his chin and said indifferently. Let me try to break this wall and see what is hidden on the other side. After saying that, Zhuowen did not hesitate in the slightest. With a single step, his waist and legs combined as one, the soles of his feet fiercely stepped forward. His right fist, which was ready to strike, was like a blazing golden light as it fiercely smashed into the wall. Boom! A low and deep sound suddenly spread out. Following that, Zhuowen was shocked to discover that the wall under his fist did not move at all. Instead, a similar recoil force was acting on his body. Dong dong dong. After taking a few steps back, Zhuowen frowned slightly. He said rather solemnly, "What a hard wall. My attack actually had no effect at all." The loud rumbling sound from Zhuowen's side also attracted the attention of some warriors not far away. Following that, these warriors looked at each other and rushed straight towards Zhuowen's side. However, when they saw that Zhuowen was staring at a wall in a daze, a trace of disappointment immediately appeared in their eyes. Obviously, they thought that someone had found a treasure. They did not expect to see a monotonous scene in front of them. After secretly cursing a few times, these warriors once again spread out and began to search the other stone rooms to see if there were any treasures or the like. Looking at the warriors who had once again spread out, Zhuowen secretly sighed in relief. Fortunately, this strange wall was hard enough. Otherwise, if he really broke the wall, these warriors who had heard the sound would probably rush over like mad dogs to fight for it. Xiao He. I can only rely on you to break this wall. I can't break such a hard wall. Zhuowen shrugged his shoulders and turned his gaze towards Xiao He on his shoulder. Leave it to this dragon lord. I want to see what's hidden behind this wall. Xiao He laughed mischievously. Following that, its little black claws swiped across the empty space. A black mist immediately spread out and became even more viscous, like a liquid. With a wave of its little claws, the black viscous liquid adhered to the wall. After a slight sizzling sound, Zhuowen was surprised to find that the seemingly indestructible wall was actually slowly melting under the influence of the black viscous liquid. In the end, a hole the size of a human head was corroded out. Let's go and take a look. Seeing that a hole had been corroded out of the wall, Zhuowen could not wait to take a closer look. He quickly discovered that the space behind the wall was not very big. At most, it was the size of a person standing. Moreover, it was pitch black inside. However, with the help of mental energy, Zhuowen was naturally able to clearly investigate the situation inside. This is... Zhuowen let out a soft cry of surprise. Following that, a strange expression surfaced on his face. Zhuowen's mind moved. Under the guidance of his mental energy, 2 black shadows suddenly flew out from the hole. He extended his hand and caught the 2 black shadows. Don't tell me that this is the map of the ancient cave mansion. Picking up a piece of yellowed paper, Zhuowen spread out his hands and unfolded it. Looking at the somewhat complicated map on the paper, Zhuowen's eyes suddenly burst out with a bright light. At this moment, Xiaohei had also returned to Zhuowen's shoulder. Its black eyes stared straight at the paper in the latter's hand. It excitedly said, "It is indeed the map of the ancient cave mansion. The entrance of the map is marked with a stone door. Therefore, this is undoubtedly the map of the ancient cave mansion. Kid. Looks like your luck is pretty good. You actually managed to find the map of the ancient cave mansion by chance. With this map, we will undoubtedly take fewer detours in this ancient cave mansion." Zhuowen also saw the stone door marked on the map, as well as the complicated palace routes marked on the map. Obviously, this map was the map of the ancient cave mansion. He even saw the overall structure of the ancient cave mansion on the map, as well as some hidden traps. Gently closing the map, Zhuowen picked up a palm-sized key and muttered, "Then, could this key be the key to one of the secret rooms in the ancient cave mansion?" The surface of the key was covered with white markings. It looked as if it was carved out of stone. Moreover, an obscure fluctuation would occasionally leak out from the stone key, revealing its extraordinariness. A key that can be placed together with a map is definitely not ordinary. Perhaps this key is used to open the door to the treasure trove palace? Xiaohei smacked its lips and said with a mischievous smile. Slightly nodding his head, Zhuowen naturally knew that the key in his hand was not ordinary. It was very likely that it would be of great use in the depths of the ancient cave mansion. After all, the owner of the ancient cave mansion would not hide a useless key in such an inconspicuous place for no reason. Since we have the map, we can first go to the medicine garden of the ancient cave mansion. The most important thing now is to find the blood chi nether grass. Otherwise, the blood seal will always be stuck in my body and I will always feel uncomfortable. After speaking, Zhuowen kept the key in the map, turned around and rushed towards the depths of the tunnel. Previously, he had roughly glanced at the contents of the map and had already determined his current location. According to the introduction of the map, there were a total of 2 medicine gardens in the ancient cave mansion. One of the medicine gardens was located in the deepest part of the ancient cave mansion. Its area was several thousand miles wide and there were countless medicinal herbs in it. The other medicine garden was merely an experimental area. Its area was not large, only about 100 miles wide. However, there were also many medicinal herbs in it. It was likely that there would be the blood chi nether grass that Zhuowen needed. The place that Zhuowen planned to go now was the experimental medicine garden. After all, according to the map, that medicine garden was much closer to his current location. Moreover, the danger was also much lower. After all, the deeper one went into the ancient cave mansion, the more numerous and dangerous the traps inside. There was even the possibility of some powerful ancient beasts appearing. Whoosh whoosh. Not long after Zhuowen left, 2 more figures appeared in the same place. These 2 figures, one of them was a middle-aged man with a gloomy expression. There was a trace of hostility between his eyebrows. He was the sect master of the Yin-sifting sect, Yingshuelua. The other was a white-haired old man dressed in a white robe. He looked quite sage-like, but his face revealed a vicious expression from time to time, which forcibly distorted this temperament. There is an obscure spiritual fluctuation on this brat's body. If I had not used the secret technique in advance, it is very likely that I would have been detected by this spiritual fluctuation. It seems that this brat is really not simple as sect leader has said. The old man gently stroked his long beard and frowned a little as he spoke. Humph. We can't be careless. From the words just now, this kid seems to have found the map of the ancient cave mansion. His luck is really good. Let's catch up and find an opportunity to completely cripple this kid. Then, we will take all the good things from him. Chapter 210. 100 Beast War Soul Formation, Xiao He. Since just now, I've been feeling something strange behind me, as if there's someone watching me from behind. In the passageway, Zhuowen suddenly stopped and looked back somewhat nervously. Then, he frowned slightly. Did you notice it too? Actually, after you obtained the map and the key, this dragon lord had discovered that someone was following behind us. However, that person seemed to possess a secret technique to conceal himself. Although I knew that someone was following us, I was unable to pinpoint the location of that person. Xiao He crossed her paws in front of her chest and sneered. In other words, the guy who followed us should know that the map I got is the map of the cave, right? Looks like I was really careless. Xiao He, how do we get rid of this stalker now? Zhuowen felt a headache coming on. He was not afraid of being followed, but if the stalker was able to conceal himself to the point where even Xiao He could not detect him, it would be troublesome. After all, if he was suddenly stabbed in the back by someone behind him, it would be too unjust. Get rid of? Why do we have to get rid of the guy behind us? Now that the map of the cave is in our hands, the initiative is in our hands. We can lure that guy into the cave's trap. If this dragon master remembers correctly, there are many traps marked on the map. The corners of Xiao He's mouth suddenly curled into a sinister smile as his eyes darted around. Zhuowen was startled when he heard this. Soon after, a sinister smile appeared on his face. He casually glanced behind him before disappearing from the spot with a leap. Not long after Zhuowen disappeared, Yingshuelua and the old man appeared. Yingshuelua frowned and said, "Just now, this boy suddenly stopped and looked around. Did he discover us?" "Don't worry, sect leader. Once I use this concealment technique, even an Earth King stage cultivator would find it difficult to detect me. This kid is only at the corporeal yang stage. How could he detect me?" The old man beside him raised his head and said proudly. "I hope it is as you say. But I still feel that something is wrong." Yingshuelua frowned and said worriedly. "Don't worry, sect leader. This kid is only at the corporeal yang stage. No matter how capable he is, it is impossible for him to be a match for the two of us who are half a step into the Earth King realm. With our current strength, even if we encounter an Earth King realm martial artist, I am afraid that we can still put up a fight. A mere corporeal yang stage brat is no threat to us at all. This brat has the map of the cave in his hands. With him leading the way in front, it will save us a lot of effort. Once he really finds a good treasure, we will have already taken action to completely finish him off and snatch his treasure. Isn't this a wonderful matter of killing two birds with one stone?" The old man stroked his long beard and smilingly said. Yingshuelua nodded slightly and said, "Yes. You're right. Let's follow this kid and see what good stuff he can find for us." At this point, the doubt in Yingshuelua's eyes gradually faded and was replaced by a cold and sinister look. Then, the two disappeared again and followed Zhuowen. After running for about an hour in the dark tunnel, Zhuowen discovered the exit of the tunnel not far in front of him. His feet fiercely stomped on the ground, and he quickly stepped into the exit. A strong light instantly shot into his eyes. Zhuowen couldn't help but squint his eyes. After getting used to the light, Zhuowen discovered that he was currently in a vast and magnificent stone hall that was similar to a plaza. There were hundreds of huge stone pillars in the stone hall. These stone pillars were as thick as 100 people's arms and each of them was as tall as the sky. In the endless sky, it was almost impossible to see where the top of the stone pillars led to. Moreover, the stone pillars were engraved with all kinds of strange beasts. Most of the beasts were very strange. Some of them had the body of a human and the face of a horse, some had the body of a human and the tail of a fish, and some had the body of a lion and the face of a man. The engravings were vivid and lifelike. If it were not for the existence of the stone pillars, Zhuowen would have thought that these statues were real beasts. The beasts engraved on the stone pillars are basically ancient mutants. They are the ancestors of the meta beasts of your era. It can be said that the bloodline of the meta beasts is basically passed down from ancient mutants. These mutants are very powerful and can overturn mountains and seas. In ancient times, even human experts did not dare to provoke them. Looking at the various beasts engraved on the stone pillars, Xiao Hei's expression was complicated. There was a trace of undetectable sadness in the depths of her eyes. Zhuowen could also sense Xiao Hei's downcast mood. He did not reply and instead changed the topic. This should be the front hall. It is the main hall at the front of the entire palace. If the markings on the map are correct, the entire front hall is a huge trap. However, before Zhuowen could finish speaking, he was interrupted by Xiao Hei. It would be more accurate to call it a huge formation. This place has already been set up by the owner of the cave, the 100 Beast War Soul Formation. These sky-high stone pillars are actually refined from the souls of ancient mutants. If one does not have a special method to pass through, they will probably be devoured by the beast souls in this formation. However, this formation has already been partially destroyed by someone using brute force. Its power is probably not as strong as before. However, it should be more than enough to trap the followers behind. After Xiao Hei said this, Zhuowen immediately noticed that many of the densely packed sky-high stone pillars in the main hall had indeed been damaged. There were also many broken stones and dozens of huge pits of varying depths on the ground. It seems that Lu Yuanhua and his group have already passed through this place. This group of people is really powerful. They were actually able to force their way through this formation. Zhuowen muttered to himself in shock. Zhuowen could sense the powerful aura faintly emitted from these sky-high stone pillars. Clearly, if the formation inside was triggered, its power would definitely not be child's play. However, Lu Yuanhua and his group had passed through this place like a hot knife through butter. It seemed like the young experts from the 5 great factions in the province were not to be underestimated. Even if this formation is already damaged, I'm afraid that the current you will not be able to withstand it. Moreover, it is impossible for Lu Yuanhua to destroy this formation alone. It is obvious that the 5 great factions work together to break this formation in order to break this formation. Let's not discuss this now. You should follow the route on the map and quickly walk out of this formation. Xiao Hei rolled her eyes and said. Nodding his head slightly, Zhuowen did not waste any time. Instead, he followed the route on the map and carefully walked through the numerous stone pillars that surrounded him. Being surrounded by so many huge beast statues, Zhuowen was like a lamb surrounded by a group of beasts. He appeared small and frail. Moreover, Zhuowen's journey was not so easy. After all, these hundreds of sky-high stone pillars were refined from the souls of ancient strange beasts. Naturally, they carried a strong sense of oppression. Therefore, even though Zhuowen's willpower was very strong, after walking through this path, he could not help but break out in a cold sweat. After stepping out of the last stone pillar, Zhuowen let out a sigh of relief. Just now, when he was in the middle of so many stone pillars, Zhuowen really felt a sense of loneliness and helplessness. He already felt this way without triggering the formation. If he really triggered the 100 Beast War Soul formation, he was afraid that this feeling would be even stronger. He might even lose his life. Now, let's see how the guy who is secretly following behind us will be so unlucky. Xiao Hei smiled sinisterly. Her face was full of a gloating smile. At the same time, 2 figures appeared at the exit of the passage. Looking at the 2 figures that appeared in front of him, Zhuowen was stunned. Then, he stared straight at one of the middle-aged men. Inshualua. I didn't expect it to be this old guy. It seems that these two guys have been following us all this time. Zhuowen said with a cold smile. Just as Inshualua and the white-haired old man appeared at the exit, they saw the young man who was sneering at them at the other end of the stone pillar. Old dog Ing. I didn't expect that enemies would meet on a narrow road. It seems that the one who has been following me all this time is you, old dog. Suddenly, a wanton voice came from the opposite side. When Inshualua heard it, his face darkened and a trace of anger appeared in his eyes. This little bastard, it seems that he is getting more and more arrogant. Old Yang, it seems that your secret method is not working. This guy already knew that we were following him. Inshualua snorted and said with hatred. The white-haired old man shrugged helplessly. Now that the truth was in front of him, he could not refute it. Since we've been discovered, we can only kill this brat. The white-haired old man's expression was serene and calm, but the words he spoke were exceptionally chilling. Let's do it together. This guy can't be left alive. Otherwise, there will be endless trouble. After Inshualua finished speaking, he stomped his feet on the ground and rushed into the stone pillar like an arrow released from a bow. He swept straight in the direction of Zhuowen. The white-haired old man did not dare to show any weakness and followed closely behind. Little bastard, today is the day you die. After you die, all the benefits on your body will belong to me, and the map of your cave will also belong to me. With the map, all the treasures in the cave mansion will be in my hands. When the time comes, the Yin sifting sect will become extremely powerful. At that time, whether it is the city governor's mansion or the Zhuo family, I will personally destroy them all. Inshualua had not even arrived yet, but his harsh words had already been spoken. His loud and clear voice reverberated in the hall. However, when Inshualua rushed into the stone pillar, he felt that something was wrong. This was because the young man opposite him saw him rushing over. Instead of being afraid, he showed a gloating smile. There was even a trace of pity in this smile. Old dog Ing. Calling you a dog is an insult to the dog race. I'm afraid that your brain is worse than a dog's. Now, you will have a taste of the 100-beast war soul formation. It won't be too late to kill me after you break through this formation. Zhuowen's voice came slowly. Suddenly, Inshualua's face changed dramatically. He shouted, "Oh no, we have been tricked. This stone pillar is a formation. Retreat." After saying that, Inshualua wanted to use his body movement to return to his original position. However, when he entered the stone pillar and took the wrong path, he had already triggered the formation. It was too late to retreat now. Awoo. Chapter 211. Iriawu. Mournful beastly roars reverberated throughout the hall. Soon after, the enormous stone pillars that connected the heavens and the earth all crumbled apart. Following which, giant beasts that were several hundred feet in size, like mountains, abruptly rushed out of the stone pillars. What are these things? Inshualua's face had turned extremely pale. He stared at the giant beasts that had broken out of the pillars and said in a trembling voice. He could feel the powerful aura of these beasts, which numbered in the hundreds. This aura made even him tremble a little. Moreover, there were so many beasts gathered around him. The powerful aura they formed was like a huge mountain pressing down on him. Die! Suddenly, a voice came from the stone pillars. Then, the giant beasts stared at Inshualua and the white-haired old man with their lantern-sized eyes. Retreat! An extreme sense of crisis made Inshualua let out a shout. He tapped the ground with the tip of his foot and retreated like a ghost. He knew that as long as he could get out of the range of the stone pillars, he would be safe. Boom! However, Inshualua's idea was obviously a little naive. A gust of wind whistled behind him, and a huge beast claw slammed toward his back. Damn it! With a curse, Xiaolua quickly formed a seal with both hands, forming a blood-red barrier in front of him. Kacha! What shocked him was that under the effect of the beast's claws, the blood-colored barrier was instantly torn apart like paper. Puchi! A mouthful of blood gushed out from Xiaolua's mouth. Xiaolua flew backward like a butterfly with broken wings. He landed heavily on the ground, creating a deep pit. The white-haired elder who came with Xiaolua was even more miserable. Under the siege of so many giant beasts, he was torn to pieces and died. Zhuowen! This old man won't let you go even if I become a ghost. In the deep pit, Xiaolua struggled to raise his head and stared at the cold-faced young man opposite him. He let out a vicious roar before he was crushed by a huge beast claw. Soon after, he was no longer breathing. Looking at Xiaolua, who had completely lost his breath, Zhuowen did not have the slightest pity in his eyes. He muttered to himself, "You brought this upon yourself. Since you want to kill me, you should be prepared to be killed by me." As soon as he finished speaking, Zhuowen took a step forward and left the front hall without the slightest reluctance, and he flashed towards the depths of the hall. When Zhuowen finally arrived at the experimental herb garden following the mark on the map, his eyes lit up and he could not help but be stunned. The herb garden was located in a small valley to the south of the front hall. The place was rather remote, and the surroundings of the valley were overgrown with weeds. The land was barren. If it weren't for the markings on the map, Zhuowen wouldn't have thought that there would be a herb garden in such a barren place. After looking around for a while and making sure that there was no one else around, Zhuowen carefully pushed aside the weeds and entered the valley. The herb garden was located in the deepest part of the valley. Looking at the medicine garden before him, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with joy. This was because he was able to smell the rich medicinal fragrance from outside the valley. Clearly, the number of elixirs in the medicine garden was not small. Otherwise, the medicinal fragrance would not have been able to spread so far. The herb garden was hundreds of miles wide. At a glance, it was full of elixirs with rich vitality. Even the vitality in the valley was much richer than outside. We are rich. I did not expect that there would be so many elixirs in an experimental herb garden. Looking at the elixirs in front of him, Zhuowen's eyes suddenly emitted a trace of light and he could not help but laugh. Humph! What an ignorant brat! Such a small herb garden can make you so happy. What a good-for-nothing! However, you have to be careful. This dragon lord feels that there is something strange about this herb garden. Xiao Hei's eyes flickered as it said. Yes. Nodding his head cautiously, Zhuowen naturally knew that there were many dangers in the ancient cave and he could not let his guard down. When Zhuowen was about 10 meters away from the herb garden, an invisible barrier suddenly appeared and blocked Zhuowen outside. There is indeed a protective barrier. Watch me break it. Xiao Hei muttered to itself for a while before it waved its small claws. An ink-black fog suddenly surged out and corroded the barrier in front of it, creating a hole the size of a person. Swoosh! Zhuowen took a step forward and entered the herb garden. A thick medicinal fragrance hit his face. Taking a deep breath, Zhuowen's face immediately revealed an intoxicated expression. At the same time, he felt the yuan power in his body become restless. Zhuowen was not in a hurry to collect the elixirs in the herb garden. Instead, his eyes vigilantly surveyed his surroundings. Soon after, his gaze fixed on the end of the herb garden. There was actually a dilapidated straw hut there, and in front of the straw hut was a rather large empty space. What made Zhuowen rather puzzled was that there was actually a wooden swing in the middle of the empty space. Strangely, there was not the slightest bit of wind in the surroundings. However, the swing naturally swayed and occasionally emitted strange creaking sounds. Frowning slightly, Zhuowen's eyes flickered. In the end, he still took a step forward and walked towards the straw hut. However, there were some doubts in his heart. I remember that when we first entered the valley, there was no straw hut in the herb garden. Why did it mysteriously appear now that we have entered the herb garden? As he walked, Zhuowen's eyebrows became even more tightly knitted. There was indeed no straw hut. It seems like this straw hut suddenly appeared after we broke through the herb garden's barrier. Moreover, it appeared extremely abruptly. Xiao He suddenly said with a serious expression. After hearing Xiao He's words, Zhuowen's eyebrows became even more tightly knitted. At the same time, a trace of intense uneasiness surfaced in his heart. When Zhuowen walked to the empty space, he raised his head and saw that the swaying swing had suddenly stopped. Following which, a sinister laughter suddenly sounded out beside his ear. It was as if someone was laughing sinisterly beside his ear. Hee hee, hee hee, the sinister laughter suddenly rang out and filled Zhuowen's entire mind. Xiao He. Did you hear that laughter? The uneasiness in his heart grew even more intense. Cold sweat even appeared on Zhuowen's forehead. Zhuowen could not help but turn his head to look at Xiao He, who was on his shoulder. What caused Zhuowen to be shocked was that Xiao He, who was originally standing on his shoulder, had actually disappeared. Instead, a deathly pale skinny arm was resting on his shoulder. Zhuowen could even see countless protruding black meridian paths on this strange arm. Damn it! With a violent shake of his shoulder, Zhuowen's footsteps suddenly staggered and he retreated a dozen steps. He turned around to look behind him to see who exactly was behind him. There's no one. Looking at the empty herb garden behind him, the doubt on Zhuowen's face grew even more intense. However, at the same time, he could also feel a trace of fear. This place was too strange. From the beginning, he had felt that something was wrong. Hee hee, another ear-piercing and sinister laughter rang out. At the same time, the creaking sound of the swing also rang out, causing Zhuowen to involuntarily turn his gaze to the empty space where the swing was located. He saw that there was actually an old lady sitting on the originally empty swing. The old lady's wrinkled face was actually as pale as snow. A pair of eyes that seemed as if they were about to pop out of their sockets stared straight at Zhuowen. The corners of her mouth revealed a trace of a strange smile. Who are you? When he turned his head and saw this strange old lady, Zhuowen's heart could not help but tremble and he took a few steps back. However, what responded to Zhuowen was the old lady's strange smile. The atmosphere instantly became extremely strange. This place is too strange. Let's find Xiao He first. Xiao He was clearly on my shoulder just a moment ago. How did she disappear in the blink of an eye? Looking at the old lady on the swing, Zhuowen slowly retreated. At the same time, he was secretly on guard against his surroundings. However, after taking a dozen steps back, Zhuowen's ears twitched slightly and he actually heard a series of light footsteps behind him. He abruptly turned his head. A deathly pale face with a strange smile suddenly appeared in front of Zhuowen's eyes. This face was only an inch away from Zhuowen. The deathly pale face and the deathly stillness in the eyes were completely imprinted in Zhuowen's eyes. Shocked, Zhuowen could not help but take a few steps back. At this moment, Zhuowen finally clearly saw the face that had suddenly appeared in front of him. It was actually the old lady who had been sitting on the swing all this time. Hee hee. A few sinister laughs suddenly rang out. The old lady stared straight at Zhuowen just like this, as if there was something on Zhuowen's face. Pretending to be mysterious. With a cold snort, although Zhuowen's heart was somewhat shaken by the strange scene that had suddenly appeared in front of him, Zhuowen was not truly frightened. He took a big stride forward. Turbulent yuan power ferociously gathered in the center of his palm and mercilessly struck the old lady's body. Pop! What surprised Zhuowen was that the old lady's body was actually instantly pierced through. However, not a single drop of blood flowed out from her body. Instead, Zhuowen actually felt a suction force coming from within the old lady's body. Following which, his right hand that had pierced through her body was actually firmly sucked in. Hee, you can't escape. A sinister voice suddenly rang out. Turning his head to look, Zhuowen once again saw the old lady's deathly pale face. It was only an inch away from him, staring at him just like this. When he once again looked at the old lady's body, Zhuowen discovered that the old lady's neck had actually stretched out like rubber. She moved closer to Zhuowen's eyes and coldly stared into his eyes. The smile at the corner of her mouth was still as sinister and sinister as before. "Your eyes are very beautiful, they look very delicious." The old lady grinned, revealing a row of sharp long teeth and a long tongue that hung down to her chest. A disgusting fishy smell immediately spread out, causing one to feel nauseous. Chapter 212. Yin Yang Pool, Brat. Wake up, wake up. A hurried voice suddenly rang in Zhuowen's ears. The moment this voice rang out, the expression of the old lady in front of Zhuowen changed abruptly. The nails that were piercing towards his eyes actually stopped. At the same time, a rare look of fear appeared on the old lady's face. With a shrill cry, she directly disappeared before Zhuowen's eyes. The calling by his ear became louder and more urgent. Slowly opening his eyes, Zhuowen saw Xiaohei looking at him with a worried expression. "Brat! What happened to you just now? Once you entered the medicine garden, you fell into a daze. No matter how much this dragon lord called out to you, you did not wake up." Seeing that Zhuowen had woken up, Xiaohei's eyebrows immediately raised in joy. Immediately after, she asked somewhat suspiciously. "Fell into a daze? When I entered the medicine garden just now, I discovered that there was a straw hut at the end of the medicine garden." At this point, Zhuowen was suddenly startled. Looking towards the end of the medicine garden, he discovered that there was nothing there. The straw hut that he had mentioned was nowhere to be seen. Staring at the empty end of the medicine garden, Zhuowen furrowed his brows. His eyes were filled with deep suspicion. Xiaohei also saw the expression on Zhuowen's face. In addition to his strange behavior just now, she could not help but ask, "Brat, tell this dragon lord what happened to you just now." Slightly nodding his head, Xiaohei was after all an ancient existence and knew much more than him. Therefore, she did not hold back at all as she recounted what had happened just now. After listening, Xiaohei revealed a strange expression. She stared straight at Zhuowen and said, "Looks like your life was saved by this dragon lord. If you did not wake up in time just now, I'm afraid that you would never wake up again." Hearing this, Zhuowen was horrified and asked, "What do you mean? What exactly did I see just now? If I'm not wrong, what you saw should be an illusion set up by the yin-yang venomous worms. Besides, the illusions of the yin and yang parasites are linked to the real world. If you die in the illusion, you will die in the real world too. These parasites were quite troublesome even in ancient times," Xiaohei said seriously. "If I die in an illusion, will I die in reality too?" Zhuowen could not help but shudder when he recalled the strange old lady who was almost unkillable. He knew that if it were not for Xiaohei's call, he would have been killed by the old lady. "What should we do now? It seems that the inside of the cave is indeed full of dangers. Even this seemingly ordinary herb garden has such dangers," Zhuowen said with a frown. "The yin-yang parasite might be a big problem for you martial artists, but to this dragon lord, it's not a problem at all. Moreover, the yin-yang parasite would not appear for no reason. As long as this worm appears, it means that there must be a yin-yang pool here," Xiaohei said with a smile. "Yin-yang pool?" Zhuowen scratched his head and asked doubtfully. Glancing at the puzzled Zhuowen, Xiaohei said indifferently, "The yin-yang pool contains a rich fusion of yin and yang. It has undeniable benefits for a corporeal yang warrior. To put it bluntly, the yin-yang pool can directly raise your cultivation to the human king realm." Hearing this, Zhuowen could not help but be startled. Then, a look of joy appeared on his face. He asked excitedly, "Can the yin-yang pool really raise my cultivation to the human king realm?" Although Zhuowen's progress was extremely fast and he had reached the corporeal yang 8th stage in just 2 years, this kind of cultivation could be said to be at the bottom of the ancient cave. If he wanted to obtain the good things in the cave, Zhuowen's strength had to be improved. Moreover, Zhuowen had estimated that with his current progress, he would need at least half a year to reach the human king realm. Now that this time could be shortened infinitely, Zhuowen was naturally very happy. The yin-yang pool is such an important thing. It must have been hidden by the yin-yang parasite using an illusion. Therefore, if you want to find the yin-yang pool, you must first get rid of the yin-yang parasite. Speaking up to here, Xiao He glanced at Zhuo Wen who was beside him with ill intentions and let out a rather lascivious laugh. Seeing Xiao He's eyes, Zhuo Wen's hair instantly stood up and he said uncomfortably, "Don't tell me you want me to be the bait?" Hee hee. The yin-yang parasite loves the human brain the most. Other than you, there is no other better choice. The corners of Xiao He's mouth cracked open and she said with a wicked laugh. Sighing slightly, Zhuowen also knew that this was the only way at the moment. After all, he also coveted the yin-yang pool. Alright then. What should I do next to lure the yin-yang parasite again? Xiao He glanced at Zhuowen and turned into a black light with a swoosh and entered between his eyebrows. At the same time, Xiao He's voice sounded in Zhuowen's mind. You don't have to do anything. You just have to wait here. I will hide first. Otherwise, the yin-yang parasite will be scared away again. After Xiao He finished speaking, she became completely silent. For a moment, the entire medicine garden was terrifyingly silent. After a while, Zhuowen indeed saw that familiar yet strange straw hut at the end of the path. He also saw the dilapidated wooden swing in front of the straw hut. Naturally, the pale-faced old lady was also sitting on the swing. Hee hee. You can't escape. The sinister laughter sounded again. In the blink of an eye, the old lady appeared in front of Zhuowen as if she had teleported. Her turbid eyes coldly stared at Zhuowen and her long scarlet tongue stuck out. Now that Zhuowen knew that this strange old woman was formed from the yin-yang venomous insects, he wasn't as frightened as he was at the beginning. Instead, he grinned at the old woman and said sarcastically, "I think the one who won't be able to escape is you." The old lady's expression changed. She actually screamed and flew towards Zhuowen. Her head and hands were like rubber as they suddenly extended countless times. Her sharp claws and sharp white teeth emitted a cold light. Xiao He. It's time to attack. Facing the old lady who was flying towards him, Zhuowen's expression changed. He knew that his attack would have no effect on the old lady in the illusion. Just as the old lady was about to reach Zhuowen, an endless amount of black energy suddenly shot out from between her eyebrows. Then, an earth-shattering dragon roar suddenly roared out. The violent roar instantly caused the old lady to fall into a momentary daze. It was this momentary daze that allowed the boundless black energy to engulf the old lady like a tide. Ah! A mournful cry suddenly rang out in the entire space. The old lady was actually gradually corroded by the black energy and finally turned into an invisible gas. As the old lady disappeared, the scenery in front of Zhuowen also changed greatly. The straw hut and swing at the end of the herb garden slowly disappeared, and finally, a pool of water that was a few miles wide appeared. This pool was rather peculiar. It was actually half black and half white. Both sides intersected with each other, and an extremely dense yin and yang energy instantly gushed out from the pool. Zhuowen was not unfamiliar with this aura. He could feel it from many human king realm and earth king realm warriors. It was the aura and power that was unique to warriors of the Zhao King realm. There really is a yin-yang pool here. Kid, your luck is really extraordinary. With this yin-yang pool, I'm afraid that you will be able to break through and advance to the human king realm in less than a day. Xiao He unknowingly appeared on Zhuowen's shoulder again. Her eyes were shining as she looked at the yin-yang pool in front of her. She smacked her lips and said with envy. A trace of excitement flashed in Zhuowen's eyes. He took a deep breath and said to Xiao He, "Have the yin-yang parasite worms been completely dealt with?" "Of course. This dragon lord has never failed." Xiao Hei said proudly. She waved her small claws and a strange black and white insect appeared in the middle of her palm. Zhuowen knew that this insect should be the yin-yang parasite worms that Xiao Hei was talking about. Xiao Hei clenched her claws and crushed the yin-yang parasite worm in her palm. She said indifferently, "Enter the yin-yang pool and absorb the yin and yang energy inside first. It will be more dangerous when you go deeper into the cave later. The stronger you are, the higher your chances of survival." Nodding his head slightly, Zhuowen took off the clothes on his upper body and leaped into the yin-yang lake. As soon as he entered the yin-yang pool, he could feel the rich yin and yang energy around him. It was like a river flowing into the sea, gathering into his body. As expected of the yin-yang pool, it actually has such rich yin and yang energy. This time, I must break through to the human king realm. A trace of light shot out from Zhuowen's eyes. He did not speak anymore. He closed his eyes slightly and opened all the pores on his body. He was like a whale sucking in water, absorbing the rich yin and yang energy in the pool into his body. As the yin and yang energy in the pool continued to pour into his body, Zhuowen's aura grew at a terrifying speed. Creak. When the aura in Zhuowen's body reached its peak, the muscles and bones in his body started to squirm crazily. It was as if there were countless insects in his muscles. A powerful aura suddenly burst out. Countless ripples appeared in the pool and water splashed everywhere. Looks like the yin-yang pool's effect is not bad. It hasn't been long and this kid has broken through to the 9th stage of the corporeal yang realm. I hope this kid can successfully break through to the human king realm. With this kid's potential, once he breaks through to the human king realm, his strength will definitely increase greatly. His martial strength alone will not be weaker than a complete human king realm warrior. Xiao Hei muttered to herself as she looked at the youth who was silently absorbing the yin and yang energy in the yin-yang pool. Just as Zhuowen was silently absorbing the yin and yang pool and preparing to break through, two uninvited guests appeared outside the ancient cave. They turned into two streams of light and stopped in front of the Heaven Fiend Nether Eye. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.